San Diego, let's get to it. No fluff, no filters, just San Diego sports the way it's supposed to be.
When one asset of your game is not performing at a high level, you need the other portions of your game to step up and overcome those things.
The takes hit different here.
You know, everybody's all worried about the Padres not hitting home runs. The Padres don't need to hit home runs to win games. The home runs are going to come. It's finding different ways to win.
This is the Braden Surprenant Show.
What's up, San Diego? Hey, happy Friday, everybody out there in America's finest city. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We are live and local each and every day from 10 to 2, minus the weekends, of course. Good to be with all of you again today. We had a quick show yesterday. Didn't have Frank with us yesterday. It was such a quick little post-game show that Frank got to have the entire day off. What you do on your off day? By the way, was those results that you said confirmed? Did you actually win the Truck Series now?
I did, yes.
Wow.
The drop week was put in, so yes, I am the Tuesday Night Truck
How about
Series champion
that?
now.
Take that, 31, or whatever that guy's name was. Was it Allen or something like that? Yeah.
So.
You know what? You thought you got lucky with the pit crew, the fast pit crew there at the end. Didn't realize there was a drop week, buddy, did you?
No, I did not.
That's awesome. I love that. I forward that to your two big race fans now at this point with
Thank you.
With Nick and Matt, and so they're stoked. But that was the only. You know what? Yeah, where's the applause? Applause yourself. Yeah, let's go. Because that's about all you can really applaud after yesterday. And like any capacity for San Diego sports, I mean, San Diego FC with their loss on Wednesday. That we didn't get to talk about, obviously, because we barely had a show yesterday on Thursday. Padres, 3 heartbreaking games in Atlanta. A heartbreaking game in Kansas City. And when you start looking at the numbers, and Kevin Acee put it out about just how the Padres are losing games that most MLB teams don't lose, but on top of that, they're losing games that the Padres, even this year, haven't really lost. And what I mean by that is the runs. The runs scored. I mean, it's really remarkable. The Padres have scored 5 runs in 5 of their 7 games on this road trip. They have gone 2-3 in those 5 games. As Kevin Acee put in his daily newsletter, that is preposterous. Preposterous. Erroneous. It's unbelievable. When the Padres, before this road trip, here, let's see if we can get Frankie one off again here. Before this road trip, this season, I'm talking 2026, this season, Frank, when the Padres had scored 5 runs or more, actually just 5 runs, when they have scored 5 runs.
When they have scored 5 runs.
Yeah, at least 5 runs. So 5 runs or more.
5 or more.
So when they have scored at least 5 runs, they have done that 36 times this year. Do you know what their record was in games that they have scored at least 5 runs before this break?
So 36 times they've done that this year?
Yeah. How many wins do they have out of 36?
So it would have to be 18, and 18 would be your midway. They've won 12.
No. When the Padres have scored at least 5 runs, they've done it 36 times. They have won 32 of 36. When they've scored at least 5 runs.
Okay.
That's what they did before this road trip. This road trip, they're 2-3. I mean, think about that. Think about how preposterous that is. Again, because of the fact that the pitching staff has been so bad. Kevin Acee goes on, just 2 other times this season did they sustain a stretch as long as their current one in which they produced as prolifically on offense. You follow me so far?
Mm-hmm.
Don't get distracted.
Too late.
By the Indianapolis Motor Speedway qualifying.
Too late.
So, listen to this. The Padres scored 5 runs 9 times in a 10-game stretch in April. 5 runs, 9 times, 10-game stretch in April. Do you know what the record was in that game, in those games?
7-2.
9-0. The Padres scored at least 5 runs 10 times in 16 games in June. Remember, June wasn't very good. You know what their record was in those 10 games?
I'm going to assume losses are going to have to come in somewhere, so I'm going to assume 8-2 here.
9-1. The Padres, again, 32-4 in games in which they scored at least 5 runs before the break. And now after the break, you are starting to actually see this offense score runs and get to the 5-run mark or more. And they have 2 wins for it in 5 games, which just goes to show you how bad the pitching staff is, how bad it's been. I talked about it a lot yesterday. Look, I understand, and I said this yesterday, I'm going to say it again as we dive into what yesterday's game was. I understand that because he's pitching right now in the rotation kind of shows you that they really don't have any other options. But I don't know how a team that is now, since yesterday's game, have had reports come out about they still want to buy at the trade deadline. They're holding out all hope to buy at the trade deadline. Look, I'm not a big believer in massive selling at the trade deadline, but I'm also not a big believer right now in potentially buying anything to this team. They still think they can buy. I don't know how a team that thinks that can roll Griffin Canning out there every 5 days. I really don't understand. I mean, he has shown throughout the entire year that it's not getting better. And he's not even he gave up, 3 home runs yesterday in 2 2/3 innings? He gave up more home runs yesterday than he had innings pitched as a starting pitcher. He's doing that all the time now. Really, all the time. It's really remarkable. They had this in the newsletter as well. Whatever they decide to do, the Padres will almost without question make a change of some sort. They know they can't allow Canning to keep going like this. His 6.97 ERA and 1.63 whip over 62 innings does not come close to telling the story of his struggles, even though there are just 2 major league pitchers who have worked at least 60 innings and have a higher ERA and 4 with a higher whip. Canning, who does have 1 quality start, and twice allowed a run over 5 innings, has allowed 5 or more runs 4 times. Yesterday was the 4th time he allowed 4 more runs while not completing 4 innings. He has allowed multiple runs in the first inning of work in 6 of his 15 games. They had another stat about his home runs. I'm going to get to that here in a second. Let's see if I can find it. The home runs was remarkable, how many home runs that he had given up as a starting pitcher. I can't find it off the top of my head, but here it is. Including the home run Michael Harris II hit on the second pitch Canning threw in the game and the homer by switch hitting Albies, Canning has surrendered a home run in every 4.36 at-bats to those hitting from the left side this season. That's unbelievable. I mean, that is really unbelievable. I mean, I thought yesterday, again, Frank, was the story of the starting pitching, really. And then Matt Waldron didn't really help you out either, be giving up the late home run. Braves added on in all 3 of these games, or really the last 2 games, in which the Padres could have won, and they came up 1 run short. So the bullpen also has to slam the door when it comes to giving your offense a chance that is continuing to put up a lot of numbers and put up a lot more runs. But yesterday, I mean, Canning killed you. You got 3 runs against Chris Sale. You got the bloop knock by Freddie Fermin. You actually had the Padres use ABS properly. I mean, Fernando never uses ABS. Yesterday, he used ABS. That was the 3rd time he'd ever used it this season. It worked a walk to score the first run. You got the 2-run single by a guy that's been DFA'd, I think, multiple times this year. Maybe only once. Can't remember the top of it. But that's a guy that you weren't expecting to really do any help for you in Luis Rengifo. And you got a 3-0 lead. A 3-0 lead off Chris Sale. Kyle Hart did his job in the first inning. And the second pitch of the game gets hit back to downtown Atlanta? I mean, come on. Look, I understand. I saw Ben Higgins tweet He's like, well, I'd almost rather take that than a lead walk. I mean, he ended up doing everything. But yesterday's game, Frank, Griffin Canning absolutely killed you and killed, I thought, a momentum swing of if they beat Chris Sale yesterday after the 3 runs they put up and they split with Atlanta, you're feeling a hell of a lot better coming into Friday this weekend about trying to stay relevant at the trade deadline than you did with this epic collapse that the Padres pitching staff had yet again in the second half of the season.
And you also have an opener going for him still. So Kyle Hart pitched that first inning. So when you go 2 2/3 innings, like Canning did yesterday, 5 runs, 4 of them earned, 5 hits, 4 strikeouts, no walks. Congratulations, no walks. You only threw 19 balls out of 59 pitches. Not bad. Your location's there. Unfortunately, it's there for the hitters as well. I mean, that is his biggest issue right now is he's not, if you look at his pitch charts from these last couple starts, it's not like he's been wild. It's not like he's been all over the place. He's throwing every pitch in the strike zone. Unfortunately, every pitch in the strike zone is in a hittable place. He's just not having success locating his pitches at a place where people can't hit them.
Well, and the other thing, too, his pitches are not very good to begin with.
Yeah.
He has a 94-mile-an-hour fastball and a 91-mile-an-hour changeup. That's changeup? I mean, that's the ball that got hit over the fence yesterday. One of the Dom Smith home run was a changeup over the heart of the plate at 91 off of his 94-mile-an-hour fastball. I mean, I get you have limited resources right now in terms of the pitching staff because of some injuries, which goes to like not having enough depth for this team. But I don't know why. Ben brought it up as we were like exchanging shows. I don't even know why haven't you just go bullpen day? I mean, what's with the opener nonsense? I mean, you basically had a bullpen day yesterday anyway, and I don't understand. I know they're trying to get Griffin Canning going, but guys, it's July 24th. That ship has kind of sailed on getting somebody going. Look, Craig Stammen is dealing with the roster that he has in front of him. But to throw Griffin Canning out there again in any type of capacity outside of maybe 1 inning in relief, I don't know how you can bet on him going multiple innings. I mean, this was the third inning of work he had in the 4th inning where he got lit up. It took him 2 pitches for the Braves to welcome him to the game. I mean, if you go with a bullpen day, at least you could probably go 2 innings maybe with Kyle Hart. I mean, why not? Kyle Hart will cruise through the 1st inning. Why not have him start the 2nd inning and see what's going on? I mean, at this point, if you're trying to sneak Canning through to eat innings for your bullpen, why aren't you trying to sneak these like long relief guys through? I mean, Kyle Hart should probably get a better chance at starting games than Griffin Canning, and that's not even saying that much. I don't know where you go with the starting staff. I really don't. I mean, and here's the other thing, too. Like, the reports that came out yesterday we're going to dive into, and A.J. Preller was on with Bennett Woods earlier this morning that we're gonna play for you later on this hour. But the reports yesterday from Dennis Lin, Kevin Acee, doesn't sound like Mason Miller really is going to get moved. I mean, they'd have to get like a heck of a deal, which I don't think any team is really willing to do, to be honest with you. I don't like, why would the Mariners give up young, controllable starting pitching for Mason Miller when they're like around 500? And their biggest problem is their offense. They don't score any runs. I don't understand. I could see why the Yankees would want to get a guy like Mason Miller. There's nobody in that Yankees organization that I really want. I mean, not one. And they're always overhyped anyway. And I thought it was a interesting article that Tim Britton wrote yesterday about these deadline deals. And it wasn't about the fact that usually teams in return, when they trade away guys like Mason Miller and they trade away stars, never get prospects that pan out. That wasn't the point of the article. The point of the article was to kind of showcase what you could get for some of these guys at the deadline. And Frank, you and I both read that article. There was not a lot of players that ended up turning into, I'm not talking about stars. I'm talking about there wasn't a lot of guys that even made the big leagues, let alone turned into a star for the teams that traded away top players.
Yeah, I mean, and also like you take a look at the Mason Miller bid. That was just like an eye roll. It's like, oh, if he can get if he can get an offer that AJ Preller can't refuse, then yeah, he could go. While also at the same time saying the gimmick of sports talk radio, the get him for a haul isn't going to fly. You did that in the article. You said that. You said the thing. You did the thing. So I don't see a way that trading Mason Miller at this point makes any sense. Not just because of the state of the team, but just because of what you're going to get for him. Just doesn't line up. Unless you know you're going to get multiple major league starters, a guy who's the next Fernando waiting in the wings, that I don't know how you trade him.
We're going to get to that article later on in the show. I will say this about that article. There was only one. You have to give some of the credit. There was only one player that is a player that anybody would recognize in a good light that got traded at the deadline that was a prospect, and it was Johan Duran. He's great, right? I don't think anybody really argues against how good Johan Duran is for the Phillies, right, as a closer. But when he was acquired by the Twins, they acquired him to be a starter. I mean, the only one that has worked out has been a guy that was they were hoping he was going to be a starter, and they had to move him to the bullpen. I mean, I get like Mason Miller could get you a, quote, haul. Which I hate that. I hate when fans say, like, oh, trade this guy for a haul. A haul of what? A haul of what? If I'm going to trade Mason Miller, who's the best bullpen arm in Major League Baseball, I better get starting pitching out of it. And it better be a guy that at least at near the top of the rotation. I mean, the Padres got Randy Vasquez and Johnny Brito out of the Soto trade. Remember that? Those were supposed to be guys that fill out your rotation. Both of them are currently in your bullpen. It's no guarantee. We're going to talk about what the trade deadline plan should be when we come back. We'll talk more about yesterday's game. If you want to join the show, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Braden Surprenant Show off and running. San Diego's Urban Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan. The All-Star break is done, which means we got something on the horizon. NFL training camps are going to start up this week, and it's officially here for some NFL players. This season could define their entire career. Shedeur Sanders is trying to prove he's the Browns' franchise quarterback. C.J. Stroud needs to take Houston deeper into the playoffs before earning a massive extension. Michael Penix Jr. has to win Atlanta's quarterback competition, while Baker Mayfield's playing for another huge payday. And there's stars like Rashee Rice, Keon Coleman, Nick Bosa, who all have different reasons why 2026 is a make-or-break season. Every year, training camp creates breakout stars, exposes players who aren't ready. Biggest question is simple: who handles the pressure and who lets moments slip away? Training camp begins, and so does the pressure, Frank, as we get started to start talking about the NFL season right around the corner.
Yeah, NFL training camps are officially underway, and while every player is fighting for a roster spot or a starting role, some have much more than that on the line than others. For several players around the league, this season isn't just another year. It's a defining moment for their careers, whether it's proving their franchise quarterbacks, earning massive contract extensions, or simply just trying to keep a job. The pressure has never been higher on some of these players.
Let's talk about the quarterback position. That's always a area of, high stress and high expectations, and it always dominates the conversation. Shedeur Sanders enters perhaps the biggest season of his young career in Cleveland. Browns are still searching for the franchise quarterback, and Sanders does have an opportunity to prove he is the answer. If he develops into a reliable starter, Cleveland may no longer need to spend another high draft pick on a quarterback. I've heard that for every quarterback they've had in the last, I don't even know, probably my entire life at this point. But if he struggles, the Browns could be right back in the quarterback market next offseason. For me, this is a make or break year for Shedeur Sanders. I thought he was smoke and mirrors in college. He does throw a good ball. He is very athletic. I don't necessarily know how it translates to the NFL. I thought that him getting drafted to Cleveland the Browns' reaction in their war room when he got drafted was so bizarre.
Especially after they picked Dylan Gabriel, too.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm kind of tired of this narrative already, like with Shedeur, and he might be the best quarterback in their quarterback room, considering everybody else that is there. But I just don't see him being an NFL quarterback year in and year out that can lead you to a Super Bowl. I mean, I think there's different tiers, and without getting through those tiers, I just don't see this working out for Cleveland this season. And I think they do end up having to draft another quarterback in the near future.
Yeah, I don't see it either, unfortunately for them. Cleveland's just been a revolving door for quarterbacks. And unfortunately, I don't think it changes much. Michael Penix Jr. in Atlanta, already feeling the pressure despite being a few seasons into his career. Falcons invested heavily in him, but now he has to beat out veteran Tua Tagovailoa while proving he's worthy of long-term commitment. That feels like a pretty big hill to climb. Tagovailoa wasn't necessarily horrific in Miami. Those concussions, though, kept mounting up for him, and it really kind of put him on the back foot there.
Atlanta's interesting, too, because they haven't really committed to any quarterback, right?
Other than Matt Ryan.
They sign Kirk Cousins, and then they draft Michael Penix Jr., and then Michael Penix Jr. he's been okay in Atlanta after he took over for Kirk Cousins, but then they go out and get Tua Tagovailoa on the free. I mean, they haven't been committed to really any quarterback since Matt Ryan, as you mentioned. And, I wonder if the revolving door in the backup spot always rears its ugly head with this team, where they're always, where the starting quarterback's always looking over his shoulder. You want to be able to get competition and create competition and have guys be at their best, but you also don't want to have the starting quarterback worrying about what's behind him more than just focusing on himself in the future. So I don't necessarily know Atlanta's approach to the quarterback position has been good or ideal, but it's going to be interesting to see who wins that quarterback battle, because as you mentioned, Tua wasn't bad. I mean, he's shown a lot of good signs in Miami. I think the biggest problem was he didn't have that great of an offensive line. The defense in Miami hadn't been very good. Yes, he was the benefit of a lot of weapons, but I think he's got potential to be pretty decent in Atlanta if he is protected. I think it's going to be an interesting quarterback battle there. But then there's CJ Stroud in Houston. Now he's getting close to a contract, right? I mean, he's getting close to being off of his rookie deal. His first year, I thought when he got drafted, I thought he was the best going into the draft. I thought he was the best option in the NFL draft. That
410, 710 first pitch, East Coast.
Wow, 410 start. Equal Watcher SoCal Padres pregame show at 3:10. What a week for Gwen and Chris, huh?
Normal people baseball time. 7:10.
I don't like planes. I like the 640s over the 710s. Absolutely. You know what I used to like? I like the COVID 610 starts. I thought those were great. Loved those. Absolutely loved those. The pitching staff is brutal. It's hard to watch. I don't understand how you could keep rolling out some of those guys over and over and over again. I get from a standpoint of they have nobody else, so they're going to have to. I don't necessarily think Nick Pivetta or Joe Musgrove are saving this team anytime soon. There's not enough starting pitching out there even on the open market. If you had assets to trade away to really improve this team so much, I mean, the Padres it continues to get reported that they're looking to potentially buy at the deadline. And it's becoming more and more far-fetched by the day, the way they're playing. Now, that being said, and there's nothing to be said, there's no such thing as silver linings in losses or, a quality loss. The Padres, the frustrating part is the Padres are like 2 catchers' interferences and a couple of bloop shots away from having 3 extra wins on this road trip. That's the frustrating part. I mean, they lost 3 games in Atlanta by 1 run. 2 of them, a catcher's interference by Dubon, who has 3 catcher's interferences already this year, have led to scores that ultimately gave the Braves the 1-run difference in 2 of the games. And then they also had the game, 2 days ago where it was just like the Wandy Peralta, Randy Vasquez situation where Randy just gets try to put a 0 up. I mean, it's so hard for this team to get out sometimes for their pitching staff. Bullpen just kept giving up an extra run here, an extra run there, and the offense, again, just 1 run short. 1 run short. The game last Friday against the Royals, same kind of deal. I mean, those are actually 4 very winnable games for the Padres, which ultimately changes the narrative. And you know what? If they win 4 of those games, they're probably in the playoffs right now. It's a way different feel, but it's heartbreaking loss after heartbreaking loss. And the biggest takeaway from this is, and here's where I'm going with this, Frank. The offense has finally turned it around, and you can't argue against that because, statistically, they have been a top 5 offense since middle of June. I mean, for over a month now. If they would have done this, I'm going to ask you this question, Frank. We've seen the offensive turnaround. If they did this middle of May, are they in a playoff spot right now?
100%.
Oh, absolutely. If they would have done this in the middle of May, they might be, I would almost be emboldened enough to say they would be 10 games above 500. But they waited around way too long, yet again, saying back of the baseball card, it took them way too long to figure it out, and now they got to try to score 7 runs every game because their pitching staff is all beat up, and they can't get you outs right now. This is like is this not like the 4th season in a row we've seen this out of the offense, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, eventually, I do think it comes to a point where if you're in that clubhouse, and it's the same crew, it's been the same crew for a half a decade now, they probably need to have a little bit more sense of urgency in the middle of at the beginning part of the season than continually saying, look at the back of my baseball card. When you look at the back of my baseball card, which, by the way, Frank, the back of everybody's baseball card is not going to look that far off of what it's been for most of their careers. It might be slightly a little bit on the lower side, but they're going to continue to point to that. And you know what you should point back at? Scoreboard. Because at the end of the day, all that really matters is wins and losses. It's going to be frustrating, Frank, when they miss the playoffs by 1 game, 2 games. If they really collapse, they'll miss it significantly. But then you look at the back of everybody's baseball card, and it will show kind of relatively where they've been for most of their careers. And they're just like, oh, look, back of the baseball card. Just didn't work out. I care about the back of the schedule. The wins and the losses, more so than the back of the baseball card sometimes. But if this offense had shown up when they should have, we wouldn't be having most of these conversations. We didn't have to worry about the fact that Estrada and Adam and Morgan are out and the starting pitching's beat up. And they would have been able to be in a little bit of a cushion where they can navigate these games and play about 500 ball and then retool at the trade deadline to be ready to go. I just think this offense, too many times, year in and year out, Frank, takes way too long to get going.
Yeah, and I mean, you could say to a certain degree that some of the guys have earned the right to be able to kind of have that slow start because you know what they're going to become. But there comes a point where you got to have more guys doing what Manny did last year, which is, getting off to hot starts. Now, he didn't really help you down the stretch all that much, but there comes a point where you have to knock your heads together and say, listen, we gotta find a way to get rolling here early, because that's how we're going to help ourselves in a situation like this. You get out to that, what was it, 2024 start where they went 7-0. Was that 2024 or was that last year when they went 7-0 to start?
That was last year.
Last year. We got to do that. We got to do that more often to be able to help us at this stage of the season. So the offense is a problem, and I've said it a lot, that the offense not being good for the first couple of months has been what's weighing on the pitching staff. You could definitely still make that case for the bullpen. You can't really make that case for the starting rotation anymore.
I don't think so either. And here's the thing, I understand a lot of people's thought process. I feel like here's the, and this is the fun part too now about AI, is I can now search and go back and find I can find win socks now, especially the loudmouths on social media where they act like they're super smart and all they do is tweet out. They just continue to tweet the way the wind blows. I showed Frank some last night about some people that very much dislike Xander Bogaerts and just spew so much hatred for him on social media that couldn't wait for him to sign with the Padres. It's hilarious. And I'm going to just say the warning again right now. I mean, to me, you trade Mason Miller away if you don't think you're going to be able to compete for the next 3 years. And what I mean by compete, I mean make the playoffs. I don't mean win a World Series. If you're trying to consistently wait for the perfect roster to make the World Series, you are going to be waiting forever. It's never going to happen. You got to be thinking from a standpoint of, can this team compete for a playoff spot? This team right now is terrible the way they're playing. Their offense is playing a lot better, but they are not good. They haven't been good for most of the year. They have no starting pitching. The bullpen is beat up. The offense has taken way too long to get going. And a couple of wins this weekend, they're still right there in the thick of things of the wild card race, which just shows you with the extra wild card team how much easier it is to make the postseason, which is all you're trying to do. So I think their season this year is done. I don't think they're playing for anything in 2026. I am planting the white flag. This season is over. I don't think a lot of you disagree with that. But what I'm not going to say is 2027 and 2028 is also over, because I don't think that's the case. I do, however, think if you trade Mason Miller away for two, at best, middle of rotation guys, Johnny Brito, Randy Vasquez, I think you are punting on the next season and the season after that. Because even if you trade Mason Miller and you get a haul, the chances of you hitting on multiple guys in that haul are incredibly slim. Even if you get one guy, let's say you get one middle of rotation guy, he's not even like a stud, whatever. You still have all the same problems going into next year as you have this year. The only difference is, Frank, you don't have the all-star incredible closer back there. You have normal guys. It's not like Mason Miller is saving you money. It's not like he's leaving at the end of the year. It makes no sense. I understand the comparisons between a closer and a running back in the NFL, but the reality is, if you're just thinking about this season, let's cut everybody down, Frank, you need somebody to play next year. And you're not going to have the money to be able to fill out every hole that you have in the roster during free agency, especially with a salary cap. I mean, maybe the new ownership group could just write a bunch of checks and you could just buy all the best players and reset. But then, as a fan base that has complained about that, why would you want to add gigantic contracts of free agency? So now what do? Oh, you're going to trade for some of these guys? Maybe? Are you going to then just take all the assets you got in these trades and then flip them for MLB guys during the offseason? I guess you could do that. But I feel like people don't think this through. They just emotionally go, we must sell everybody without having like any type of plan in place. And I don't think I'm out of bounds on that, Frank. I really don't.
No, I don't think so either. And I mean, I saw somebody in the chat, I don't know if it was ironic at this point or not, but the Nationals hit on Abrams and Wood, so it can happen. They traded a generational talent. They traded for a generational talent with them. I would not call, as good as Mason Miller is, I would not say he's on the same level as Juan Soto. Would you?
No, he's not an everyday player.
So,
and guess what?
You're not going to get that return for him.
Return for him? I mean, you barely got that return for one when you traded one.
Yeah.
You traded Juan Soto, and look, like you got a couple of playoff runs out of it. I think it worked out from that, right? Because you had Michael King and Dylan Cease, right? So that's kind of worked out. But the prospects you got were not the guys that you were hoping for. I mean, I remember when they made the Juan Soto trade, I remember people going like, look, you got all these arms of the future. You got all these good arms of the future. Replenish the farm system. It's Randy Vasquez and Johnny Brito. And you traded Drew Thorpe for Dylan Cease, who ended up walking. And everybody just bitch, moan, and complain about Dylan Cease when he was on this team. It's just, I honestly, and I continue to say, I don't know what you think you're going to get. And we're going to talk about that in the 11 o'clock hour. The Tim Britton article. We'll start naming you names of prospects that were can't-miss guys that were traded at the deadline in these big-name deals that never amounted to anything. It's a massive risk. And if you think you compete in the playoffs next year, 2027, you know what you don't want to do? Probably don't want to face Mason Miller and the Milwaukee Brewers, do you? Probably don't want to do that. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, we'll discuss more about that. We'll hear from A.J. Preller as well. He was on with the morning show. What's the general manager have to say about all this? We'll get to that next. MLB trade deadline is less than 2 weeks away, and some fascinating trade ideas are starting to surface. One proposal has the Padres acquiring Freddie Peralta from the Mets in exchange for a top pitching prospect in Cash Mayfield. It's exactly the kind of buy low move A.J. Preller has made before. I don't honestly know if it's buying low, though, with a guy like Cash Mayfield. But a veteran pitcher with ace potential, whose value has dropped. Other ideas include George Kirby heading to San Francisco, Hunter Goodman joining the Red Sox, Michael Wacha helping the Cubs playoff push, Luisa Rise giving the Rangers another elite contact bat. Biggest lesson, championships aren't always won by landing the biggest superstar. They're often won by finding the player everyone else gives up on or finding the right mix of players like Atlanta did back in 2021. As August 3rd gets closer, I would imagine this report becomes less and less accurate, if you will, as the days go on because of all the crazy things that could potentially happen in trades. But trade season is officially here. Jim Bowden put out some ideas, the trades he would like to see. Number one, Mariners shaking up the rotation as it sends George Kirby from Seattle to the Giants in return. Versatile infielder Casey Schmidt from San Diego State and left-handed reliever Eric Miller. For Seattle, it solves two needs immediately. They had a right-handed bat, destroys left-handed pitching while also strengthening their bullpen. For San Francisco, they replaced Robbie Ray if he's moved immediately, and immediately paired George Kirby with Logan Webb to create one of the better 1-2 punches in the National League. It's bold. It makes some baseball sense. Interesting trade idea from Jim Bowden, Frank.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, interesting to find George Kirby getting traded. But yeah, for Casey Schmidt, who's a versatile infielder, as you mentioned, another guy that Seattle can use, plus a bullpen arm for a team that has been so up and down this year. We talk about how the Padres have been up and down. Seattle has been just as bad, if not worse, than the Padres have been on that roller coaster. So that would be a nice little trade to kind of hope to level Seattle out a little bit.
Trade idea number 2, according to Jim Bowden. Red Sox go all in. Boston been searching for offense all season. Proposal lands them one of the best young catchers in baseball, maybe Hunter Goodman from Colorado.
Yeah, the cost would be a massive prospect package highlighted by Marcelo Mayer, along with pitching prospects and catcher Carlos Narvaez. The Rockies would essentially be betting on 4 long-term pieces instead of 1 all-star catcher. Boston would be betting that Goodman becomes the middle-of-the-order bat they have desperately needed for the last few years now, and sometimes you have to give up a premium in order to acquire that talent. Interesting that it would take Marcelo Mayer to get that done, and I think it will have to.
The one that they proposed for the Padres would be with the Mets. No better combo to talk about it than me and you. I don't necessarily know I like this at all. I don't think the Padres are in a position to do this, but according to Jim Bowden, a trade he'd like to see, Padres acquire Freddie Peralta for the Mets, who's a rental, and the Padres would send one of their top pitching prospects and Cash Mayfield back to New York. I mean, you could go through the gamble that this could potentially be. The Padres, to me, cannot be trading for rentals. I think they need to be trading for the future if they decide to buy at the trade deadline. I don't think they can give up a guy like Cash Mayfield, but if they did, it would be for a starting pitcher that they had years of control over. And I think the same thing goes with any of their top prospects. I mean, I don't think they could trade Ethan Salas unless it leads to a Shea Langoliers or something like that, where you turn the current prospect into what they could potentially be and you expedite the process to now. Other than that, I don't really like ideas like this of trading for a rental just for one guy. And if you have to give up a Cash Mayfield for this, I don't think it's going to pay dividends for the Padres in the long run.
If it was 2024, I would do this. But with the
2022, 2024,
exactly.
Any of the years that you're like one piece away, Padres are not.
In this situation, absolutely not. This is not something I would do for Peralta. His ERA is inflated this year. Cash Mayfield, from the Met perspective, isn't really quite ready yet. It's going to be a couple years, so you're still waiting on that. And now it looks like the Mets are going to ship Freddie Peralta back to Milwaukee, which for Jet Mayfield and Brandon Sproat, I'd do it.
Cubs continue to search for starting pitching. Michael Wacha could be an opportunity for the Chicago Cubs. I think the Cubs definitely need starting pitching. I don't know how they've been able to survive without it so far, but with so many devastating injuries for them in the starting rotation, I think Michael Wacha is perfect. He's having a really good year for Cubs.
Yeah, and the suggestion would be to give up former top prospect Matt Shaw, as well as Kevin Alcantara. So an infielder, 2 infielders there. It is expensive. But with the situation the Cubs find themselves in and how desperate they are for starting pitching, to get a guy like Michael Wacha, who we've seen just recently, that would be a pretty penny that Kansas City can ask for, especially with how desperate Chicago is.
Texas needing a pure hitter. How about Luis Arraez going to Texas? That's not a bad move for Texas, and I don't think they need to add too much to be, I don't know, division winners. The division is terrible. Adding a Luis Arraez might be just the pure contact that they're looking for, though. 10:43 on a Friday. 833-288-973. 833-288-973. I mean, Frank and I just came up with a scenario that is highly plausible that probably is not the best. And people are going to get mad if we bring it up, but there was a report. Where from Bob Nightingale, the Dodgers basically are like, you know what? We might as well just be all in on this and just try to, be the first team in a long time to win 3 World Series in a row and just try to acquire some of the best talent at the deadline. What about this, Frank? I want to hear your reaction to this. What about this? What if the Padres traded Mason Miller to the Brewers or the Rays or the Mariners, right? These are like the teams, the organizations that have a lot of good prospects, right? And so you get some good prospects in return. And these teams use Mason Miller to the end of the season. And then into the offseason, whenever it starts up, the Dodgers start giving them a phone call because they need bullpen help. And it's cheap bullpen help. And they have all these prospects, right, that they can trade with. And they go like, hey, Milwaukee, we'll give you some of our best prospects here. We'll give you a haul, as people that call into the show have to say. We'll give you a haul for Mason Miller and kind of replenish your farm. And so you guys can stay young and have these young, controllable players. What happens if they said yes, Frank? Is that a crazy idea? Is that like something so far-fetched nobody would believe it? That is highly plausible. I mean, the Dodgers know that the Padres aren't going to give them Mason Miller, but if the Padres give somebody else Mason Miller, who's to say the Dodgers can't go get Mason Miller? I'm just saying. That is highly likely. That could highly likely happen. And then for the next decade plus, because he would never leave LA, they would just give him a big contract. For like that, would that be fun, Frank? Would you enjoy doing that? Would you enjoy watching the Padres have to go against Mason Miller in LA year after year? Year after year. Why aren't you saying anything? Because it'd be one, it's very plausible, and two, that would suck. That would suck. Would it not? That would suck. I remember the same thing. The Padres, I remember the whole Adrian Gonzalez thing. Right? And we've heard it multiple times, the ownership that wasn't going to give Adrian Gonzalez fair market value, and he had to do it for the Players Association. And regardless if you believe that or not, they had to trade him. And they traded him to Boston, right? And in the return, they had, they got Anthony Rizzo back, but then they in a dumb way, flipped him for Andrew Kashner, which was so dumb at the time. And they flipped Adrian Gonzalez, and you're like, all right, well, at least he's going to I remember people saying, well, at least he's going to the Red Sox, right? He's going to go to the Red Sox, and he'll be in the American League. Don't have to worry about him. He lasted a year and a half in Boston, and he got shipped to L.A. And then he kicked your ass from 2012 through 2017. And it's just and everyone's like, I can't believe we lost again. It's these are the same kind of conversations, Frank. These are the same kind of conversations. It's be careful what you wish for. I just don't think what you would get back is worth letting Mason Miller be out there and uncontrollable after you gave up Leo DeVries for him. Because you're not going to get Leo DeVries back. You're not getting a player like him back. I know people want to say the Brewers would give up Made for him, and he's one of the best players that you could potentially acquire. I don't think they're giving him up.
Let's call it like it is, because as the sign said, prospects aren't a guarantee. So you're not going to get a guy the potential of Leo DeVries back, because you don't know what he is yet. You don't know what he's going to be. You're not going to get a guy the potential of Leo DeVries back.
The more I think about this, the more nonsensical it gets. And we're going to get to that article in a second about, what you could potentially get back. And they did the comparisons. I mean, I think a lot of people, I don't honestly believe that people think that next year the season's already over. I really don't believe that. I don't think you guys believe that either. I just think you watch this team play right now, and you're like, this is impossible. We're never going to win again. We got to start everything over. That's just kind of emotionally bitching. I mean, Frank, let me ask you this question. Do you think the Padres? Oh, he's still talking to somebody on the phone. Let me ask you this, Frank. Do you think the Padres actually have zero chance of competing next year?
No.
Absolutely not. Like, as assembled, like knowing that you're not going to have the players that are impending free agents, knowing you're not going to have Morejón or Adam, and let's just say, like, not even knowing if you're going to have Michael King. Do you think the team next year can still compete for a playoff spot?
100%.
Absolutely. So if you're a team that's competing for a playoff spot next year, why would you give up on a guy that you have for the next 3 years? I don't understand. Why would you do that? You're not going to win this year. So you trade away free agents that are not going to help you next year because they're not going to be on your team. But you hang on to the other piece, even though he's very valuable, even though he's a luxury you can't afford, even though it's like he's a closer, he doesn't help you all the time. I'd rather build a bullpen next year around Mason Miller than build it around. What are you going to build it around? Bradley Rodriguez? That's going to be your guy that you just leave back there? Him and Estrada? And I mean, because Morejon's not coming back, not for $15 million. He's not. They're not re-signing him. I don't think you re-sign Jason Adam either. I mean, who's your bullpen going to be next year? If you let those guys go and you trade Mason Miller, who's in your bullpen next year? You trade Michael King, who is in your starting rotation next year? Oh, just go sign a couple of guys that, not major guys, but just, guys that are better than Canning. What does that mean? Do you know, like, guys that are better than Canning are still making, like, tons of money that probably aren't going to equate to what they're worth? Free agency is a rough game to play, and I think we're understanding that here in San Diego about free agency. Are we not? It's probably better to trade. Well, even if we trade a lot of these players back and you get something for them, it better be enough to trade away to fill out your roster at the big league level for next year. Except when you do that, guess what? You're not going to have anything left to trade at the deadline because you're going to be out of players. That's where you're at right now. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Mason in La Mesa. Mason, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Braden? So I got 2 points for you here. My first one is obviously my preference is to trade Miller. And I'm looking at it this way. I think from the Yankees, if we can get Spencer Jones and we can get George Lombard, you already then have two pieces that you can plug into the roster next year. Jake's not the answer at second base. We know he isn't. We're losing Ramon next year. So at least if you can start a trade with those two guys, we're stuck with these crappy contracts. So at least we can fill out the rest of the roster with guys who aren't making anything and are actually going to be good. That's my preference.
There's no guarantee that Spencer Jones and George Lombard are going to be good, though, man. I love Spencer Jones, but he's not helping them right now. And he's supposed to help fill in because Aaron Judge is out. I mean, he has a massive strikeout problem. Sure, when he squares the ball up, he hits, moonshot Joey Gallo home runs, but he's a major question mark right now. And they have George Lombard projected to be a solid major leaguer, but under a 4-WAR player every year. And he's still a couple of years away. He's 21 years old. I mean, those guys aren't helping you next year.
I think they're better than anything we have. They're obviously better than Jace Bowen or Rengifo or anything we have in the system. But I'm cool. Okay, if we don't do that, then my second option is then we have to make Miller a starter next year. If we are going to keep him, and that's okay if they're going to, but we have to make him a starter. Because for the next 3 years, if we're going to have him and we're going to be able to afford him at 14, 15 million, whatever his arbitration is, he has to be pitching 180 innings for us a year. We can't have him for 65 innings a year. That's just not going to work. So if we're going to keep him, we have to make him a starter the next 3 years.
I wasn't opposed to that last year. It doesn't really sound like they really want to do that. I think if you wanted to trade him, I think you need pitching back more than position players. And I think you're better off trading Miller to Seattle or Milwaukee or Tampa, if that's the case. That to me is where you would be. Maybe Pittsburgh, because they got a lot of arms over there in Pittsburgh, but The problem with this, though, and I appreciate the phone call, Mason, the problem is other organizations like that. I mean, think about those organizations. The Brewers are the organization that never trades to, like, put themselves over the top at the deadline. They have not done it. They're too afraid to part ways with their young, controllable players. You got to get somebody in one of these organizations that act like A.J. Preller to pull the trigger on something like this. It takes two to tango. Zero interest in trading with the Yankees. They're, after doing research on what they have, and they're the 26th best farm system in baseball, I'm out on that. We're going to get back to your phone calls in just a little bit, but first, when we come back, a preview of the Marlins series. We'll be joined by their broadcaster next. 11 o'clock on the Braden Surprenant Show on a Friday, broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. We know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, standing as number one sports station 97.3 The Fan. All of our guests are brought to you by SDCCU. It's not Big Bank Banking. It's better. And now joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline is the play-by-play man of the upcoming opponent for the San Diego Padres and the Miami Marlins. His name is Kyle Sielaff. He joins us on the SDCCU fan hotline. Kyle, what's going on? How's your Friday going?
It's good, guys. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate you reaching out.
It's good to have you on to start talking some, obviously, some Padres and Marlins baseball coming up this weekend. A very important series, massive series for both teams as they fight to try to get themselves back into a playoff conversation. Marlins in a little bit better of a spot in terms of games back than the Padres, but Kyle, I've watched a lot of the Marlins games the last couple of weeks because of little scoreboard watching. These 9 games, I could hear it in your voice sometimes just watching this team and some of the things that haven't gone their way. What's been your biggest recap of this 9-game losing streak for the Marlins?
Oh, man. That's a good question. Look, the Marlins are predicated on pitching, and they need really good starting pitching. Think the Brewers, you got to pitch well, you need to defend well, and when you get on base, you got to wreak havoc and run. Within reason, all 3 areas have got to get better. That's got to get better starting tonight. They obviously have not pitched as well as they would have liked. The painful part is coming out of the All-Star break. You score first in Milwaukee 3 times. You get walked off in Game 1, and the pitching just didn't hold up. You had a 9th-inning lead on Sunday. Go to Houston, score first in Game 1. Game 2, you come back, and Game 3 went the way it did. They need to pitch better. But the one thing I enjoy about being around this group of guys is everybody is culpable, and that is often the case over a 7-month grind, right? Like if as soon as you start to point fingers is where I've always maintained that's where there's issues in the clubhouse. And for the Marlins, that has not been the case, but it's trying. There's no doubt about it. When you're going through it the way they are right now, there's no going and looking at the underlying numbers to see just stay with it, right? It's just no, you gotta get up off the canvas and win. And if you start winning series again, everything may very well take care of itself. But yeah, the hottest team in baseball for 7 weeks and the coldest one for the last 2 weeks, and it's been a little over 2 weeks since they last won a game of the All-Star break. So we'll see. And I think it would be fair to reason that this is the most important homestand of the season for the Marlins, and maybe the Padres would say it's the most important road trip.
Very important for obviously both teams, as you mentioned. And I mean, it was cool. I mean, let me ask you this too, just as a broadcaster. I did right when I tuned into the Marlins Astros game, they turned a triple play. That was probably fun to call, right?
It is, and you never, it's crazy. And I was thinking about it after the game. You don't think about the scenario even when there's first and second and nobody out, because it's so rare. It's like you don't sit there and if he hits it to third, how would you call a triple play? It happens. Sometimes the game allows you to think about, a walk off here, right? You want to drive it up a notch and put it into 6th gear or whatever. For triple play, it catches you so off guard. It's like, whoa, that's incredible. How about that? So it was amazing. Very, very cool.
A lot of familiar faces with this Marlins team and the San Diego Padres for more ways than one. Obviously, just looking at the active roster, Xavier Edwards, who wasn't in a trade with the San Diego Padres or the Marlins, but was a San Diego Padre farmhand at one time. Graham Pauley, obviously part of a lot of these trades. Jacob Marcy, Estrella Ruiz, another example like Xavier Edwards. That's not even mentioning the couple players on the 60-day injured list in Adam Major and Robbie Snelling. And, of course, you got 2 San Diego kids, too, on the team with Stowers and Calvin Fauché. A lot of familiar faces in this game, but for a lot of Padres fans that know a lot of these familiar faces that might not be paying attention to them, and I know I gave you a big list, who are some of the ones that stick out to have really helped the Marlins this season?
Well, I do think it was very disappointing to see Robbie Snelling get hurt after one start. I mean, I think a lot of people in the Marlins camp, and myself included, think the kid's going to be a star. Look, Xavier Edwards is very integral to the success of the Marlins, and so too is Kyle Stowers, obviously one having played for the organization, Stowers being from San Diego. I don't know if it's a stretch to say as they go, the team goes. But obviously when they're going well, the Marlins stand a very good chance to win games. Calvin's Poche from that area. I think Edwards and Stowers in particular are the couple of guys that immediately come to mind. One with power, another plays very good second base. And Stowers has made the transition to first where he's looked amazing, which tip your cap to that young man for doing that. Very good. It's not like you can go to first base and hide, right? I mean, that's a very difficult position to learn. So he's learning that on the fly. Looks really good. Marlins offense is cold right now, but if Stowers and Edwards, a couple of guys like that get going, again, stands the reason that they can get hot again.
I do want to ask about the way, and we're talking with Kyle Sielaff, who was the play-by-play man of the Miami Marlins for their television broadcast, as we get ready for Padres and Marlins later on this afternoon here in San Diego, a 4:10 Pacific time start. I saw a lot of things, like the Marlins basically, and Peter Bendix has created a roster where he's got a lot of high-contact guys mixed with a lot of high boomer-bust power guys. It was working at the beginning of the season. Obviously, it's a 9-game stretch. You're going to get that out of anybody in Major League Baseball. Offenses do cool off a lot. What's that been like to watch, and how successful has it been for the Marlins and some Luis Arraez-type players and then some Joey Gallo-type players? Probably not to those extremes, of course.
Yeah. No, I totally understand what you're saying. I think what's surprising about this 9-game stretch is that the way they're built, you didn't really think that it would allow for this type of losing streak, but they do happen. And whether it's a 9-game losing streak or, going 2-10 over your last 12, right. Like it happens to good teams. The comparison I always make for fans that might not be totally familiar with the Marlins, especially this year, and I've already brought it up, but they are the Milwaukee Brewers. In my opinion, that's what they're striving to be. Peter Bendix, who leads the charges from the Rays, so obviously there's ties there as well. But you have to pitch well, you need to defend well, and offensively, it becomes like a stress test, and they just hope you tap out at some point. That's just how they operate. They slap the ball around. They are going to steal. There is some thump in the lineup, and sometimes it's unexpected for some of the guys that might provide a little bit of power. But they don't realize, they don't live and die by the long ball. They can't. That's not how they're built. But they do. They stress you out. And I'll kind of grow to my grave saying, teams like the Marlins, albeit they're struggling right now, nobody wants to play those type of teams, especially teams that have spent a lot of money and there's guys making a lot of money, and it's the 105th game of the season, right? Like that's hard, man, when you're going through that every single day. So. We'll see. I really do believe that they're going to get back to, being, a form of the team we saw there for 7 weeks, and they've been an extremely good team at home. So we'll see how it all shakes out here.
Yeah, it should be very interesting. Padres have never done well, it seems like, in Miami. So it might be the right time for the Marlins with the Padres showing up. But the Marlins, last year, the guys had a really good season. I mean, it seemed like that little late charge got the young guys playing hard. This year, you've seen the signs. I mean, as they work through this, I think probably near the end of the rebuild to get ready to go, a big question, of course, is Sandy and what they're going to do with him with a club year, I think, next season. So potentially for 2 more years or 2 total years of control of him. There was rumors about them trading Sandy in the offseason and again during the trade deadline. I mean, where do you think the Marlins are right now as an organization? Because it's like, do you stick to the plan in terms of rebuild? You're right there. You're close. That's the whole point of why you wanted to do the rebuild in the first place, is being playoff contention. Do you go for it? What are the Marlins thinking about coming into this trade deadline?
Well, it's a good question. I think to start with Sandy, I'm a firm believer he's not going anywhere. Now, look, I also said that 2.5 weeks ago when they were 10 games over 500, and they'll play tonight a game over. I think as a president of baseball operations, you're never doing your job right if you don't take calls. But in my opinion, the Marlins are going to hold him in such high regard that a team would have to get extremely uncomfortable with what they're dealing to acquire him, if that makes sense. That's that's kind of how steadfast I am in my belief that Sandy's not going anywhere. But I think, I guess things are always subject to change. Now, as it pertains to the trade deadline, it's an interesting one because I do not see the Marlins mortgaging their future on a couple of guys, to hunt down that third wild card spot. I think a lot of folks would probably agree with that. They're young, that they are talented. There's a lot of team control. maybe if they found a right-handed hitting third baseman and maybe a reliever or a starter on an expiring contract, maybe you roll the dice with that. But I don't see a team that is going to be uber aggressive mortgaging the future of the franchise on one deadline.
I don't think they sell either, in my opinion. I'd probably stand pat then, Kyle. Just let the young guys go out there and play and see what they could come up with at the end of the year.
Within reason. I think if they can help them a little bit here and there, like I think Peter will absolutely entertain that. But I give the organization so much credit for being patient, which as a fan, it's the last thing you ever want to hear, is being told to be patient, right? Like, that's very difficult to do, but they have been patient. They have made some very, very good decisions in the front office, and you're starting to see some of those benefits now, and I think they'll be as aggressive as they're comfortable being without mortgaging the future.
It's July 24th. We're talking with Kyle Sielaff, who's the play-by-play man of the Miami Marlins. This is the first time that the Padres will see the Marlins this season. This is probably the last team that the Marlins have to play, last team the Padres have to play, I think, in the National League for the first time. Your first time seeing the Padres this season, based on maybe some storylines that you may have heard on the rumor mill or whatever, as you pay attention to Major League Baseball on the side outside of focusing on the Marlins. What are some of the storylines of the Padres you're most intrigued to see as a broadcaster this weekend?
Well, I think what's most intriguing to me, and it's more of a discussion point on the air for us, is what are they going to do at the deadline? A team that's 3 games under 500. It's fascinating to me because you look at the lineup and some of the names that are in there tonight. Within reason, you about darn near put them up with anybody. Seriously, I mean, as I guess from an impartial view of it, I feel like it's just a matter of time before they rattle off a 3-week stretch where they're really, really good. Now, they got to get pitching, right? Like I guess. It's just very intriguing to me looking at this team with the names and, the guys that are capable of producing that are maybe underperforming. And, does Mason Miller go? Can you actually add while subtracting? Could you potentially deal your closer but make out better on the other end of that? I don't know, but I see a team that I guess first and foremost is not willing to just throw it in yet, right? And I'd be very fascinated to see what they do at the deadline. They're one of those teams that have pieces to sell, and I think some of the pieces that they could sell could actually garner them back major league talent to still keep them in this, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, Kyle. That's what we've been talking about on the show for the last couple of days, and we'll probably continue to talk about for the next couple of weeks. Great conversation today. I enjoyed my time with talking with you. I appreciate you making some time today. Look forward to talking to you again, and maybe I'll see you at Petco Park when you guys roll into town.
Sounds great, guys. Take care. We'll catch up soon.
Kyle Sielaff, the play-by-play man of the Miami Marlins on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan, joining us on the SDCCU Fan Hotline. A lot of interesting things there with Sielaff in terms of the Marlins. I agree with the Marlins, though, or with him and thinking of the Marlins. They're a stand-pat team right now.
Yep.
Because, and I thought this was the case for the Padres in, 2019. It's, they're not ready yet. Like they're close, but they're not, you don't want to veer off of what your plan is and your end goal to just go after it with a young team because you're relatively close to it. They're in a different position than the Padres are. They're at the beginning of their window that they could potentially close a little bit if they make the wrong move at this year's deadline. Padres are near the end of their window where you have to continue to try to compete as much as you can, even though I think the season's pretty much done. I noticed how he said, he mentioned how based on the lineup, and it's you think they're going to have a couple of good weeks. The lineup has shown that they're having their couple of good weeks, right? That's not the problem right now. They got nobody to throw the ball over the plate that doesn't go right over the heart of the plate.
No, and that's what I said. Even when were the Mets here? They were here in what? The beginning of June. I said, even as a quote unquote opposing fan, watching those games, I said quote unquote.
I know, I had to get that in there though.
Watching the games, Manny and Fernando and Jackson and Xander, they still scare you coming up, even knowing what they were doing back in June. they still put the fear of God in you when they step up to the plate, especially in a big spot. We see it every single day here. So that does change the feeling a little bit. But when you're a visiting fan seeing these guys for the first time, even though you know what they've done this year, you know the back of their baseball card, and they still put that fear into you.
Yeah, I just I think that the other thing too that was mentioned in this interview with Kyle was he said, did you hear what he said this Marlins team is built on? Pitching.
Yeah.
Like the two arms that they have from the Padres are both on the injured list. He didn't say they're built on hitting or having bats. All of their guys right now on this team that are ex-Padre minor leaguers are position players that are like kind of hoping to keep it together. And what has been the biggest problem in these last 9 games?
Pitching.
Yeah, well, and also the offense. Their offense has been awful.
Oh, yes.
Because you got, Graham Pauley and Jacob Marcy, Estrella Ruiz. I mean, the Xavier Edwards. There's a reason why these guys were traded in the first place. Now, that being said, my bold prediction will be all 4 of those guys all hit home runs. We're just gonna see just absolute resurrection out of those players, it seems like today. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Jesus in Chula Vista. Jesus, what's going on?
Yeah, good morning. So I've been a Padres fan since '69 because I was 3 years old, and I've seen this movie before where we, have essentially the best players, talent, and then we, go through bad streaks and tend to give up our best players for future prospects, and they don't pan out. Why are we even thinking about getting rid of Miller? I mean, essentially or eventually, you're going to need that best, player, the best stopper. And what are you going to do? Get prospects now, and then what? Trade for a closer in 3 years? It's just it doesn't make sense. The baseball has changed as far as how you build a team with free agency. Obviously, our general manager has made very good moves, but at the same time, very bad moves. So it's very frustrating. The frustration that one of my sons is a diehard Padres fan. He loses his mind just like I used to, but it just doesn't make sense to contemplate that strategy to get rid of your best player. I'm going to call out something. I've seen this before in these clubhouses. When we traded for Soto, we have essentially probably the 4 top players in baseball, but the cohesiveness was not there. The dynamic is just something is there beyond the talent. I'm gonna say maybe something controversial, but I think it's a culture thing within the team. Manny Machado, I don't know. I've seen him, be at the top of his game, but he's not the same player. And I don't know if it's a personality issue within the clubhouse, but why? How is it that when we had Machado, Soto, Tatis, Bogarts, why could what was missing? What was missing? It's just there's something there within the clubhouse that it's not clicking. It's not the talent. They have the talent. It's something above or beyond the actual talent. That's my take.
Jesus, I appreciate the phone call, man. It's a guy that has seen a lot of bad years of Padres baseball, that understands that trading for the prospects is not the greatest. We got to get to break, and I want to get to Adrian Morejón when we come back. I just want to read this tweet for you. J.J. Cooper, who writes for Baseball America, he tweeted this out this morning. I love he has a whole article on it. You have to. It's behind a paywall for Baseball America. So if you're interested in that and you have Baseball America or you subscribe to them, you can check it out. I love studying the trade deadline. I spent a lot more time looking at trade deadline deals from 2015 to 2025. Out of every 10 prospects traded, 7 to 8 don't really turn out. And he has a chart: career outcomes for prospects traded at the deadline. Distinct prospects by career B-WAR. About 3.5% of prospects traded had a 10-plus WAR. 3.2% had a 5 to 9.9 WAR. 3.9% a 3 to 4.9 WAR. And then 43% of the prospects traded, because there was other ones on there, like other lists. 43% of prospects traded at the deadline from 2015 to 2025 didn't even make it to the big leagues. Didn't even make it to the big leagues. That's not even accounting for the MLB negative WAR or zero WAR, which is basically almost like worthless, accounting for 25% of prospects traded at the deadline from 2015 to 2025. If you want to add those up to just being like a zero non-impact, if you will, 69.4% of prospects traded at the deadline will either have a negative WAR or never see Major League Baseball. Food for thought before this guy for sure is going to be good. Nobody knows that. We'll talk more about that later on. We got to get to break. AJ Preller we'll hear from next. Would the SEC actually leave the NCAA? That idea sounded impossible a few years ago, but SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey says the conversations are real. The SEC is frustrated with inconsistent NIL rules, transfer portal enforcement, and the overall direction of college athletics. While Sankey says the conference still prefers competing for a national championship under one governing body, he warned that unless the NCAA becomes more consistent, those discussions will continue. I don't necessarily think a breakaway would be good for college football. Sport is at its best when every conference competes for one national championship. The NCAA does need improvement, but splitting college football into separate systems could create an even bigger problem. So the big question is, do you think the SEC should stay with the NCAA, or is it time for college football's biggest conference to go on its own way? I don't necessarily know if that even works out for the SEC. I mean, I think they continue to puff their chest out and say, we're going to leave, but I don't think they have the leverage they think they have, because I don't know if they become their own little league and it just becomes like a semi-pro football league, does anybody really care? I mean, if they just become the XFL, right? Like, does anybody really care about what they're doing? I just think this could be catastrophically bad for the SEC on top of the NCAA. But if I had to pick one side that was going to survive the most, I would pick the rest of college athletics over just one conference that thinks that they could do everything by themselves.
Yeah, and this is all coming through SEC Media Days, as Greg Sankey, SEC Commissioner, did not shy away from one of the biggest questions at SEC Media Day when asked whether discussions about the SEC separating from the NCAA were simply a negotiation tactic. Sankey straightforward answered, they're real. According to Sankey, the conversation stemmed from growing frustration over how college athletics is currently being managed, not an attempt to gain leverage. The SEC believes inconsistent enforcement of eligibility rules, NIL regulations, tampering investigations, and the implement of the House settlement have created uncertainty across not just college football, but college athletics as a whole. While Sankey emphasized that the SEC still values competing for a national championship under one governing body, he also warned that if the NCAA can't provide consistent leadership, conversations about alternative models will only continue. And I can't help but agree that at least the reasons why he would break away are good. They're worthy. I'm more aligned with you that if the SEC were to break away from the NCAA, that doesn't really help anybody.
I don't think it does at all. I don't think they hold the leverage that they think they do. And on top of that, I especially don't when Congress is trying to fix a lot of the problems that the NCAA has, but in doing so, wants to make sure everybody is accountable and held to the same standard. And the SEC, the Big Ten want to be, they want to have their separate rules, right? They don't like the fact that conference realignment is capped, right? Like Congress doesn't want to have these super conferences in college athletics, and they're trying to put a damper on that. They're trying to pool the media rights together. They're trying to make everything uniform in college athletics, but the Big Ten and the SEC still want to be the big dog and get all the money to themselves, and they still want to be a big reason why the NCAA has a lot of problems. So I find a lot of this to be eyewash, that they want the best for college, whatever. They want the best for themselves, and they're not willing to sacrifice for the betterment of the sport, which I find too many organizations across the board are doing. And I can even talk about the high school stuff here in town, about how individuals are holding back progress in San Diego when it comes to the betterment of high school football. And the SEC, and I think the Big Ten, are holding back for the betterment of college football. And they're trying to, be the holier than thou. But I mean, I don't think they're actually going to leave. I know the NCAA faces a lot of pressure right now that they have to fix. A lot of the things that they need to fix need help with the government. And if the SEC and the Big Ten are going to drag their feet the whole way, it's, say what you want about wanting all these things fixed, but you have to do your part too.
Yep.
And that's where I kind of lose it. And that goes into the playoff expansion conversation, which is the next topic. I mean, obviously that isn't a done deal. The SEC is holding back again because they only look out for themselves, which I guess is their right, but for the betterment of college athletics, which I think everybody would benefit from, an expanded playoff and really centralizing a lot of the rules. The SEC doesn't want to go to 24 teams like everybody else does. They want to be able to control who's in the playoff. They want the 11:26 on a Friday, broadcasting live for the Bill House Studios. We know how. All of our guests join us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bank Banking, it's better. Big thank you to Kyle Sielaff of the Miami Marlins, play-by-play man, joining us just moments ago to preview Padres and Marlins, which will be underway at 4:10 Pacific time today. 3:10 for Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt, who should be back in San Diego today. Anyway, AJ Preller, we're going to break this up into a couple of bits throughout the show. AJ Preller was on with Bennett Woods earlier this morning. Obviously, this is a big time for him to be on. I think a lot of people want to hear what he has to say. I think the first part that we want to talk about, we could talk about him signing their draft picks a little bit later, but, what is AJ Preller's perspective on the current state of the San Diego Padres as a 3 games under 500?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've known, with the injuries with Darvish, Pivetta, Musgrove, and now, obviously, the list goes on in terms of Adam, Estrada, those guys, that this is going to be a tough time of year in terms of it's going to be challenging for all of us in terms of, the depth, and we were going to get tested on a tough part of the schedule. So, I think we understand that, and I think, you go into it every single night. There's a path to win every single game. And it's our job to try to go find that and see what the best way is to go do that. And, some pitchers that, again, it creates opportunity for some other guys to step up and find out what they're all about. Obviously we've got, as good a back end of the bullpen as anybody in the game. So I think the exercise that we're constantly looking at is, how do you, a lot of different ways to get there. It can be outscoring guys. It can be putting runs on the board. It can be mixing and matching, which is what we've, what we're looking to do with this current group, and it's based on your personnel, and then try to get it to a spot in the game where we have, as good a back end as anybody. So, haven't done it enough here recently, and that's the challenge here for us in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully then we get some reinforcements that start to come back here as well.
I don't think they're winning anything this year. I really don't. I'm at the point now where I think the ship has sailed and the writing is on the wall about 2026. And I think that you can make some moves to benefit 2027. I think that includes Adrian Morejón. I think that includes Jason Adam. I think that includes, if he gets healthy, right? I think that includes anybody that's on a anybody's going to be a free agent next year that's playing well, that people want. If people want Wandy Peralta, if teams want Wandy Peralta, send him off. These are the moves I think you should make. I mean, you still need players on this team next year. So from that perspective, and a lot of different, and I've laid out exactly why I don't want to see Mason Miller traded, because I don't think it ends well for the Padres if that's the case. I mean, you could try to sell me the prospect thing over again. I'm just like Jesus in Chula Vista, except he has a lot more years of watching Padres baseball. I can't be sold that. I, as a Padres fan, and growing up watching this organization, watching this team, have seen the Padres get burned by that so many times. But this time's going to be different, Frank. You know what? This time is going to be different. This is the time you're going to get top players back, right? It's going to be this time. I mean, I can tell people the odds of this all the time. They're still like, these are definitely going to be great. But these guys are definitely going to be great players. Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea. And until Leo DeVries gets to the big leagues, you still won't know anything about him. The next clip I want to play with AJ Preller here, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to go back to hearing from AJ, is we talked about his perspective on the current state of the team, but I think that goes with the manager too. And I've got to rearrange the order, Frank, so let me know if you're good to go with that. But here's AJ Preller and his feelings about Craig Stammen's performance.
Yeah, I mean, Craig, again, like, I think Craig is the answer is yes. I mean, like, Craig is somebody that, you guys know him well. He's somebody you can have, honest conversations with. He's somebody that, that leads the group and leads the team. Obviously, we all like to look up and be 10 games up in the division, but I think from our standpoint, like, ultimately, it comes down to, there's a lot of factors that go into that. And I see it every single day. Craig with the staff, groups together, the guys like coming to the ballpark every single day. Again, I think it's refreshing. He'll be the first person to say, yeah, I could have done this a little differently or that a little differently. He's a better manager now than he was 3 months ago. He's going to be a better manager in 3 months than he is now. I don't tie it all to, like, the win-loss record, from a manager standpoint or from anybody in the organization standpoint. Like, the process, the conversations, the way you go about it, the vibe you create, the energy, the culture, that's what we look at. I think the things that made us want to hire Craig in the first place, we've seen them, over the last 10 years in the organization. I've seen them in this new chair. And again, he's going to be part of the solution here as we go forward. So,
I mean, what do you think he was going to say? I think Craig Stammen has made a lot of, like, rookie manager mistakes. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, he's made his fair share of mistakes. And Frank, we've called those out when he has made those. A lot of the times when you have to start, I think it's easy to say he made the wrong decision because it didn't work. It's so easy to do that. The whole hindsight 20, the Monday morning quarterback. Pressed with a lot of the information that he's got, like he gives, because people are like, well, why didn't Yuki Matsui come in to face Dom Smith? Well, he wasn't ready yet. I mean, after things started to unravel there for Griffin Canning, and what was that, the fourth inning? A catcher's interference on the first pitch of an at-bat doesn't really give you a lot of time to warm up, does it? No. So I think we nitpick a lot of times on some of these managers. He has made his fair share of mistakes, but the fact that they're missing all XYZ, the fact that the offense had been so bad at the beginning of the year, the fact that they have absolutely zero starting pitching. Again, I don't know how many times I have to say that the four of the five guys that are currently in a rotation were brought in to compete for just one rotation spot. Despite all of that, this team is only 3 games under 500 as of now. It's not trending in the right direction. But if you're gonna hire a guy to be the manager, you got to let him be a manager for at least a year. I mean, I've always abided by at least in the NFL and in football, you got to give a guy like 3 years to really determine if he's good enough or not. I think these circumstances are a little bit different just because it's not like you fired the last guy; he just left. But what did you think you were going to hear from AJ Preller on that? I think Craig Stammen's done a fair job for considering the circumstances. To be honest, I don't have too many qualms about Craig Stammen. I mean, he can't manage a bullpen. Neither can 29 other managers. I don't think there's one fan base in Major League Baseball, Frank, that actually thinks their manager can run a bullpen better than a guy sitting on the couch. Can you name me one? Nope. I think everybody that's a fan thinks that they can run a bullpen better than anybody that's getting paid to do it. It's easy to do that when your product's not on the field. Couple more things on A.J. Preller that he talked about with the deadline. Are they going to buy? Are they going to sell? What have they heard about Mason Miller? And are they going to trade Ethan Salas? A.J. Preller was asked all of those things. We will get to them when we come back. 11:41 on a Friday. Cruising along here. 833-288-973. 833-288-973. We're going to get back to AJ Preller in just a second. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show, broadcasting live for the Bill House Studios. We know how. Get back to your phone calls. We had Tommy and Santee waiting on hold. Tommy, what's going on, man?
Hi, thanks for taking the call. So I was talking about the thing about the team. I know you don't want to trade Mason Miller. I don't really want to trade Mason Miller either. I'm on board though to sell. I don't think even if this team can get hot, they don't deserve to buy. They haven't played well enough for Preller to go buy. But I do think they should trade Michael King. I know he technically could come back for 2 more years. Player option. You have a chance of him walking and you don't get anything for him and you don't re-sign him. I think if you can just get yourself, it doesn't matter if the prospects end up panning out, because what does Preller love to do? He loves to turn over prospects. So if you can just get some pieces and you have some little more leverage in the free agency market to maybe make some trades for other guys to fill some holes, and then hopefully get a pitcher or two and then some reinforcements back from the injured list to start next year. But yeah, what do you think about trading Michael King?
Well, I think that's an interesting conversation. We kind of talked a little bit about it yesterday off the air, and I appreciate the phone call, Tommy. Let's talk about this, Frank, before we get back to AJ Preller. I think the first question here is, and maybe they've had conversations with Michael King in his camp, but the first question I think that needs to be asked if you are going to potentially trade Michael King, who's 31 years old. Do you think he's opting out of his deal for next year? And he gets $5 million. If he doesn't opt in, he's got a $5 million buyout, which would give him a little bit extra cash, right? Or he takes the player option of $28 million. Now, here's what you need. This is not an easy yes or no, because of a couple of things. I think you need to understand who Michael King is, first of all. I mean, we heard in his press conference, did he have a fun time with free agency? Did he like free agency?
No.
He absolutely did not. That's number one. He's starting a young family. They're here. He has, moved his organization here. I think he likes being here. I mean, did you see his sigh of relief? I mean, he looked like a sigh of relief on the day he signed, that he knew he didn't have to worry about the free agent thing again. Do you think he wants to do that again? I don't think that to be the case. Now, if Michael King, and maybe we have to look it up on the he's probably going to get more than what the Fangraphs value is, right? Like Fangraphs leaders that they have. But I think it gives you a little bit of a sense of an idea when it comes to how much money he's expected to get, right, on the open market, where he's playing at. Do we think that Michael King's going to get a significant amount more than $28 million next year? Significantly. No. I guess with the $5 million buyout, he could take the $5 million. He could go back to free agency, and even if he signs the exact same deal, he would be making a lot more money, right? So maybe from that perspective, but it gets to a point where he strikes me more of a Jackson Merrill type player, where he's got enough, more so than a Juan Soto type player that is going to go for as much money as possible. What percentage would you give Michael King on opting out? I honestly think it might be 50-50 at most right now. I honestly don't think he would. But I also didn't think Bregman would, and I don't know if that's necessarily worked out for the Cubs.
Part of me says I don't think he will. And I think also another thing that we haven't really discussed about it, as far as that goes, is what is going to happen with the potential lockout. You don't know what's going to happen with that. I think that's another factor. That's going to be a driving impact on a lot of guys who decide whether or not they want to opt out, because one would have to assume that if you do opt out and you do sign a contract, especially if it's after the new CBA is agreed upon, if the salary cap is a thing, there's no guarantee that you're going to get as much as you would have given up by opting into your contract. There's no guarantee you're ever going to get that amount of money again.
And there's also no guarantee. I mean, here's the other thing. I mean, what are teams going to do? Remember, we remember the year, right? We remember the year of the lockout, how late it was.
Yep.
You know what you didn't want to be? You didn't want to be a free agent before the lock. You didn't want to still be a free agent when the lockout happened.
Yep.
That's why you saw like Corey Seager sign immediately and not have to worry about it. I feel like that also plays a factor. I mean, you're talking about a guy that seemed like he was stressed out this last offseason in terms of in terms of free agency, and we're going to throw in the lockout portion. I can't see him doing that. I really can't. And then again, you talk about the salary cap figures and stuff and everything that comes with that. I mean, that also is another factor. I don't think he opts out. Now, if we thought if Michael King was pitching at a level where there was like a foregone conclusion he was going to opt out of his contract, I think you have to really consider trading him. But the fact that he could potentially not opt out and he might not opt out, you need to keep him because you need somebody to pitch next year. And we've already seen that they can't just load up on a bunch of free agents because free agency usually costs you way more money. You have to give out way more years than the pitcher is going to be valued at. And that hasn't necessarily worked too much for the Padres. Are you going to trade for starting pitching? What are you going to trade with? If he is going to stay and he has an opportunity to stay, you have to keep him because you have nobody else to pitch next year in the starting rotation aside from, I don't know, maybe Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish, and that's like a major maybe. You open Randy Vasquez and Johnny Brito and J.P. Sears help fill out this rotation next year. So to me, the best trade chip you have right now is Adrian Morejón. I really think that's where your best trade chip is. Let's put it this way. Michael King, based on how he's pitched this year in terms of value and WAR and all that stuff, is the 35th best pitcher in Major League Baseball. He's had a solid year. He equates to, at this point, $15.2 million this season, according to Fangraphs. And again, that's just viewing this season, which is right on the same line as Nick Martinez, Mackenzie Gore, Michael Wacha, Foster Griffin. I mean, these are the guys that are around that level. Do you think that's enough for a team to come in and give him a ton of money? I don't think that to be true. So I don't really think that trading him for pieces to then trade away makes a lot of sense either because, look, if you want to go down the path of using whatever you trade this trade deadline into pieces that you use to buy players for next year, I don't think you have enough to go fill out the rest of this roster. I really don't. I mean, I don't think that's going to be the case. It's a good question, though. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We have a couple of minutes. We don't have time for the sports thread. I do want to get back to AJ Preller in a second. But, somebody asked, what would your plan be? I view this trade deadline, Frank, and I mentioned it yesterday. I view this trade deadline as getting as much as you possibly can for next season before the lockout hits. I think this is the time where you can cash in on maybe a couple of arms, or maybe you could find something that you have for next year or the year after to start shaping this roster for 2027, knowing what your holes are, because you're not going to have a lot of time to get that done during the offseason because of how long the lockouts last. I view this trade deadline, Frank, as getting ready for 2027, not trying to trade everybody away and restart and hope to compete in 2030. That's how I view it. How do you view this trade deadline for the Padres? What they should do?
I think it's a very light sell. I think trading Adrian Morejón should be probably top priority for the team because that's your best asset as far as getting guys back that will give you control. As much as I love watching Adrian Morejón pitch, he's going to cost way too much next season, and I'd rather get something for him instead of just letting him walk. So Morejón for a starting pitcher, maybe 2 that have control. That's what I would want to see. Maybe you can see if you can sell high on Ty France. It's only a 1-year deal, so maybe you can sell high on him. Maybe you can find a way to get him back for next season if you really liked him that much. Who knows? But yeah, this is a light sell. This is a position yourself better for the future, so you have less to do during the off season. And again, you don't know how long that off season is going to be.
I mean, in the YouTube it says, so riding with the same team next year, expecting a better outcome seems far-fetched. A lot of these guys you're keeping anyway.
Yeah.
You have no choice. This is what you decided to sign up for, and your biggest problem right now is pitching. So they got to find a way to get starting pitching next year, which would not be keeping the same team they did last year. And by the way, a lot of those guys are starting to hit, and they're actually starting to show why they're on the team to begin with, like Fernando, like Manny. Like Jackson Merrill slowly. I mean, this is really Jackson Merrill's sophomore year, for case in point, because of the injuries last year.
The only starting pitchers that you have for next season are Randy Vasquez, Joe Musgrove, and J.P. Sears. That's your starting rotation next year. And possibly Johnny Brito if you want to use him in the starting rotation. That's it.
Yeah, there's not a lot there.
That's not enough to field, and that's assuming that Michael King opts out. That's assuming that Nick Pivetta either opts out or the team doesn't take his option.
I'd be
depending on that.
shocked if he's back before August 21st or 22nd, whatever it is.
You don't know, Darvish. You don't know, but you don't know what you're going to get out of Darvish. He might retire.
We said that last year about Joe Musgrove this year.
Exactly.
And it is.
You still haven't seen him.
It is July 24th.
And he's pitched in 1 spring training game. That's it. That's all he's done. He's pitched in 1 spring training game. So that is all you have as your starting pitchers next season. You need to find a way to get some depth into this organization right now that can help facilitate a run next season and in 2028, because those are your 2 big years that are really left on this, where the guys that you have are really going to be able to help you at their highest levels.
The other fact you don't know is salary cap next year, if it's going to go in.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go in, what can the new owners do? But here's the other thing, too. The salary cap, you can still navigate if you have owners that want to spend money. Especially with how much is already on the books for next year. AJ Preller talking about the trade deadline when we come back. New lunchtime hour on the Fan. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show. Static is number Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. We continue our baseball coverage. Baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan is presented by Xfinity. Score the most reliable Wi-Fi. One price, 5 years guaranteed. Xfinity. Imagine that. Before we get to more AJ Preller sound from this morning on the manager's report, which is brought to you by SDCCU. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. I do want to say, I didn't even notice this yesterday. I mean, I knew that the Pirates had acquired Ron Marinaccio yesterday after he was designated for assignment in exchange for international signing bonus pool considerations, which was about $500,000. I did not know this. June 9th, 2024. New York Yankees tweeted this out. Prior to tonight's game, the Yankees made the following roster moves. They recalled Ron Marinaccio from AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre and designated Dennis Santana for assignment. The Pirates yesterday. Today we acquired Ron Marinaccio from San Diego in exchange for international signing bonus pool considerations. Next tweet. To make room on the 40-man roster, we have designated right-handed pitcher Dennis Santana for assignment. Dennis Santana has to hate Ron Marinaccio. I mean, he has... Ron Marinaccio has gotten Dennis Santana fired twice in 3 years. And I don't even know if Dennis Santana's even met this guy. Wherever Dennis Santana goes, Ron Marinaccio replaces him. That is insane. He's gotten cut by a team twice in 3 years to be replaced by Ron Marinaccio. Dennis Santana has to hate that guy.
Oops.
Do you think in his locker room in the clubhouse he's got like a dartboard and it's got Ron Marinaccio's face on it? One of these days, man. One of these days.
Dennis Santana signs with the Chicago Cubs as a relief pitcher. In his contract, a very interesting clause saying that he cannot be DFA'd for Ron Marinaccio under any circumstances.
I would absolutely put that as a clause in my contract. I mean, that is hilarious. Dennis Santana has gotten DFA'd twice by two different teams for Ron Marinaccio.
And Dennis Santana just started that whole thing with Jose Caballero, too, so he didn't do too much. He didn't do himself too many favors.
Was this where like Caballero was like?
Yeah,
he likes to play games with the clock, right? I mean,
Yes.
and the umpire was not having it. And he's like, "You're picking on me. You're picking on me."
That was the day after.
That was the day after.
So what happens is
I didn't see the first one.
Jose Caballero likes to, like, he'll be in the box, and as the pitcher, as the hitter, you have to be looking at the pitcher by 8 seconds left in the thing.
Yes, right. It's the same as the college rules. Like, the pitcher has to be engaged to the rubber, and then the batter has to be looking at the pitcher by 8 seconds, 9 seconds, whatever it is now.
So what Caballero would do is he would be in the box looking down until there was about 9 or 8 seconds left on the pitch clock, and then he would look up, like right at the last second before he was supposed to.
Right.
He grounded into a double play or something with Dennis Santana pitching at the first game of the Yankee Pirates series. And Santana took exception to it after the play. So they're jawing back and forth at each other, both dugouts empty onto the field, and then it all goes down. Caballero then tried to do his normal shtick the next 2 days later, because the next day was rained out. And the umpires put the kibosh on it. And that's what we saw that's what we saw yesterday with the whole, you're picking on me, this is what I always do, I've done this all season every time. And the umpires coming back saying, hey, listen, we got a call from our bosses saying enough is enough with this. So it's not like we're putting our foot down. The league is putting its foot down on what Caballero's doing. So that was the precursor to it. So it was Dennis Santana, who just incited a benches clearing incident, is now DFA.
Caballeros, I mean, what a piece of work, dude, on that particular deal. It's like this is like multiple times he has done this, and every time he like argues. You can even tell like Aaron Boone's tired of it, because when he went out there to like defend Caballero, you could tell on his face he was just like, "Are we really doing this again? Just get in the box, man. Just get in the box." All right, let's talk about the trade deadline a little bit now. AJ Preller had a long interview with our morning show on the Manager's Report, and they talked about earlier. We played the clip of him talking about how he evaluates this season so far for the Padres, as well as Craig Stammen. And then they dive into some trade deadline stuff. Obviously, he's probably not going to give you a straight answer on this, but they asked A.J. Preller on whether or not he's going to buy or sell at this year's deadline.
I mean, I think it's a lot of the factors that you just touched on. It's you're basically looking at how the team's playing. You're looking at the standings and the math of kind of where we're at. Good and bad. I mean, we had a stretch there where we came out of the break and lost a couple of games and somehow gained a game in the standings. So I think you're trying to figure out, is that good, bad, et cetera. But then factoring in again, like what's out there on the market, and does it make sense? Obviously, that stretch from when we were building, we were more in the seller world from 2016 to 2019, but since then we've been a very good team. We've played I think we've probably had about a week or two of meaningless games here in terms of this decade and at Petco that haven't had playoff implications. So we've been more in the buy world here over the last couple of years, and helped us get to the playoffs a bunch of times and win some series in the playoffs. So but every year is different, and we're going to look at it here, looking at those factors that you just mentioned, and and kind of see what's out there in the market as well, and we'll see where we go. So that's the point of this week is coming up with the deadline. It's active. We're getting a lot of calls, and like when you're in the middle in terms of the standings, then it opens up to the possibility of kind of looking at your team in different ways, and we're doing that, and we're thorough on it.
I think it's going to get closer to the deadline before you start seeing any more talk. I mean, we saw the reports yesterday, from like Dennis Lin about Mason Miller, right? And the report about like he's going to dominate the rumors, but it's going to be most likely Morejón that is the reliever that gets dealt because of his contract status and the Padres' organizational realities. And I think that's true. I think emotionally you say like, oh, Mason Miller is going to give us all these great players. It's going to fix all of our problems. That's not really true. I think Adrian Morejón is probably the guy, if they're going to sell, is going to actually be sold, at the trade deadline. I don't think Mason Miller is that likely to move. And it sounds like from the reports of Dennis Lin and even Kevin Acee this morning, it doesn't sound like, it sounds very unlikely that he'll move. And to me, Frank, the only people that are really pushing the Mason Miller conversations are the national pundits that need you to tune into their trade coverage.
Yep, 100%.
Those are the people. So let's talk about Mason Miller. I mean, obviously, I think it's wise for A.J. Preller to field all phone calls. I'm sure he's gotten a lot. But what has been the latest with Mason Miller on the trade deadline? Here's what A.J. Preller had to say.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like it's every team and situation's different. Again, like for us, like we're very strategic in what we, in what we say and how we say it. I think, obviously we've been able to complete some deals over the last few years that have helped us get in the playoffs and advance. I think to me, everybody's a little different. Every situation's different. So some teams play it, very coy, and other teams are pretty direct. Ultimately, you just want people that are straightforward. And, to me, obviously there's always, there's different styles that teams have, but, however you get that, I think, you understand that. And then ultimately, you're going to get to a point, hey, is there a deal here or not? So, again, we've always had, I think the reason why we've been able to make deals is more so we have attractive players, and we have attractive players in our organization at the big league level that, that teams understand are really good at what they do. And then we have attractive prospects that people think are going to be really good at what they do. So as long as you have that, you're going to have the ability to have these conversations, have these talks, and have teams that are interested, and you can tell when they're calling you, they're interested. And that's really no different this year than it's been over the course of the last decade, honestly, because we have good players that people want to talk about.
In Dennis Lin's article about Adrian Morejón and Mason Miller specifically that came out yesterday, still, Preller has continued to signal to rival executives that he hopes to be in a position to buy at the deadline. Team and league sources told The Athletic. Most of those sources believe the Padres intend to wait until very close to the deadline to make significant decisions, whether they're involved buying, selling, or a combination of both. The idea is not devoid of merit. The Padres, since returning from the All-Star break, have not lost ground in the mediocrity-laden race for the National League's final wild card spot. The Padres remain 3.5 games back, though there are now 5 teams ahead of them instead of 4. At least 3 of those teams, including the Miami Marlins, who they play this weekend, who have lost 9 consecutive games, entered the season in rebuilding mode and might already be leaning towards selling at the deadline, or at least not buying to go after it, as we heard from Kyle Sielaff, their play-by-play man. I mean, when you start factoring in those decisions, Frank, of some teams that might not even try to make their teams better at the deadline, and they're just, again, around in mediocrity because of the fact that nobody's taken that final wild card spot and running with it, they're not competing with as many teams. I mean, right now there's 5 in front of them, but that's not to say that all 5 are going to try to go after and win this thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is such a close race in that National League wild card that, I mean, one slip up, and we've talked about it with Miami about not necessarily trusting them all that much. I trust them a little bit more than you do. St. Louis, don't really trust them. Pittsburgh's there, don't really trust them. It's one thing if it's like the Phillies, who are like on the fringe of that wild card race, that have a history of being in the playoffs, have a history of being good. Their guys are just down right now and hurt. It's one thing when you're chasing those teams. It is quite another thing when you're chasing teams that don't really have that history and don't really have that lineage like Philadelphia or Atlanta or LA or Chicago do.
I think if you look at the standings right now, I don't think the Cardinals are going to try. I think the Cardinals and the Marlins are in the same spot, right? They went into the season not really trying to win. They have seen their young players look really good. They're both around 500, but I don't think they can punt on their plan yet. I really don't. So those are 2 teams that are like in your way, that I think are going to fall off naturally on their own. Again, I'm going to preface this conversation by saying I don't think the Padres should necessarily buy. I don't think they have shown any reason why they should buy. I'm in a more of a standing pat and trading for 2027, which includes not trading away King or Miller, especially if you think King's not going to opt out. I think I'm on the lines of, like, you trade Morejón, you trade Adam, you trade some of the guys that are not going to be under contract next year if teams want them, see what you can get for them. And, you know, if you make any type of buy moves, they're for 2027 and beyond. And then you see what you got at the end of the year, see how you compete. But let's just talk about the teams in front of the Padres right now. There's 3 teams right now right in front of them: Washington, Miami, and St. Louis. I don't think any of them buy. Like, Washington is 1 game above 500. They're not very good. Their pitching staff's not good at all. And they're thinking about trading one of their pitchers. And they're thinking about trading C.J. Abrams at the deadline. They're, like, listening to offers. I mean, they're not close to being that competitive. Why would they punt on their future and leverage their future to maybe get close to the playoffs? They need a lot of pieces too. So I don't think Washington buys. We've already talked about Miami. I don't know if they will sell, but I don't think they're going to buy. St. Louis, I don't think they're going to buy. And so now you're in a conversation of competing with Arizona, Pittsburgh, and that's it for the final spot. And if you believe that making the playoffs is successful regardless of how far you go, which I think is to an extent, then I'm not surprised why A.J. Preller right now and the organization is still thinking they could buy at the deadline. It's not surprising. I wouldn't do that. I don't think they're going to. They're not giving you any sort of semblance that they're going to just go on a heater for 3 weeks and turn into the Boston Red Sox. And I don't think there's enough starting pitching out there that they can acquire that's going to put them in a position where they can do that. But when you start looking at who they're competing with, Arizona and Pittsburgh, and they still get to play both of those teams, and this next week of Miami and San Francisco and Colorado, right? I mean, those are the games you have. There, we could be telling it, based on who they're playing, Frank, next Friday, this could be a totally different conversation, which is crazy. But it's true. Like, Miami's lost 9 in a row. I don't think they're going to – I highly doubt they're going to lose. And I highly doubt they're going to lose 12 in a row. But if the Padres do damage this weekend and then beat up on the Rockies and Giants next week, which they could, this is a drastically different story next week. But let's just say they do bye. We are both in agreement. That's probably not the best idea. I still think the season's over. I really do. They haven't shown me any reason why the pitching that they have right now can hold up for the next 2 weeks and they're going to get anything back. I don't believe it. I can't see it. We have given them a lot of time now. If they do it, great. I will gladly say I was wrong, but I don't think I don't think they can make the playoffs this year. I really don't. But let's say they do bye. What are they going to do about Ethan Salas? AJ Preller answered that. We will get to that when we come back. North Wilkesboro officially back. Joey Logano reminded everyone why he's still one of NASCAR's biggest threats. Logano led an incredible 323 laps in NASCAR's first Cup Series points race at North Wilkesboro since 1996, holding off Denny Hamlin to earn his first win since May of 2025 and jump back into the chase field. Shane Van Gisbergen also impressed, leading 49 laps at a short track before finishing fifth. Meanwhile, in Formula One, Antonelli strengthened his championship lead with another dominant victory at the Belgian Grand Prix. George Russell retired after first lap contact, allowing Antonelli to extend his advantage to 50 points heading into Hungary. Historic returns, dominant performances, championship races are heating up as both NASCAR and Formula One head toward the most important stretch of their seasons. Did we get the official finish of the IndyCar race?
Yes, we did.
On a Monday?
Yes.
IndyCar had to move to had to move the race to today because of a lot of unfortunate circumstances, but it looked like Paolo was winning anyway.
Alex Palou did win the race. So with IndyCar, we'll get through IndyCar quick before going back to NASCAR. IndyCar got the shaft yesterday. They're broadcasted on Fox, same as the World Cup. Their race started at 5:30, I think it was, p.m. So they were, after that match went on hold, after the match went to extra time, they were put on hold by Fox. So the IndyCar race could not start until after the trophy celebration for the World Cup was over.
Well,
which took place about an hour or so after the game had ended.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the trophy celebration was over, it was raining in Nashville. They lost the track after like an hour and a half of rain delay broadcast, and they forced to push the race to today. A race they could have gotten in had they just run on, say, FS1 or FS2. They had to postpone today due to rain. Because of heat, it was like ambient temperature was like 94, heat index made it 102. Because of extreme heat, they had to push the race back to, when they pushed the race back to today, they lopped off the final 25 laps. So instead of a 250 lap race, it was a 225 lap race. Just completely screwed over the entire time. They were expecting to get the biggest lead in that they could have possibly ever dreamed of, and instead ran a heat-shortened race on Monday.
That's the risk you take, right? It's deal with media contracts. It's hard to take precedent over the World Cup.
Yeah,
and
especially if you're IndyCar.
Being on Big Fox and being on broadcast television, sometimes you have to deal with that kind of situation. But for NASCAR, historic wins headline another big weekend over the weekend. Another memorable weekend across the motorsports world. Joey Logano returned to victory lane for the first time in more than a year with a dominant performance in NASCAR's long-awaited return to North Wilkesboro Speedway, while Formula One's championship picture tilted even further towards young star Kimi Antonelli after another commanding Mercedes victory at Spa. What was that?
Spa-Francorchamps.
Spa-Francorchamps.
in Belgium. Yes.
Let's talk about Logano.
Yes, North Wilkesboro Speedway officially returned as NASCAR's returned to NASCAR Cup Series points racing for the first time since 1996, and Joey Logano made sure everybody remembered it. Driving like the former Cup champion, fans remember, Logano led a career-high 323 of 450 laps and held off Denny Hamlin over the final 175 laps of the race to earn his first victory since May of last year. And it could not have come at a better time. With only 5 races remaining before the NASCAR playoffs begin, Logano vaulted back into a playoff position and reminded everyone that when Team Penske finds speed late in the season, they are always very, very dangerous. Denny Hamlin finished second after chasing Logano for nearly the entirety of the second half of the race, but simply not get close enough to pass him. Gibbs continued another strong weekend with Hamlin, Briscoe, and Ty Gibbs finishing second, third, and fourth. Perhaps the biggest surprise, though, Shane Van Gisbergen, the New Zealander, led 49 laps on a short track and finished fifth, fifth, and only 6 cars finished on the lead lap in this race, proving he is becoming much more than just a road course specialist. And the big radio call from him once he took that lead in the first stage: "I'm leading. What the bleep do I do now?"
Champion is a 2-night stay at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, and a $150 food and beverage credit. Oasis Pool Deck at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas is officially open for the season, offering a 6-acre elevated pool experience with 6 distinct pools and live beach. Have we determined is it a live beach, live without an E beach?
And beach.
And live beach. It's a party beach.
Just and beach.
Yeah, but it's called LIV beach. LIV, bitch. On the beach. Is that what the kids say? It's live, bitch. Anyway. LIV beach. Enter to win a 2-night stay at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, and a $150 food and beverage credit. To book your stay, visit FontainebleauLasVegas.com now. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to get back to our conversation and what A.J. Preller said about Ethan Salas here in just a moment. But first, let's get to your phone calls. Let's get out to Ron in La Mesa. Ron, what's going on?
Happy Beaching Friday, boys. It's good to talk to you. Hey, I think we're missing one thing about the Padres here, boys, and that's with new ownership coming in. I can almost guarantee you that there's a lot of people afraid in the front office that he's going to clean house. So a lot of this may be a moot point till he brings in a new GM or a new coach or whatever. But I kind of think that maybe one of the priorities he's saying is you will not trade Miller. So anyway, that's my take on Padres. All right, Braden, here you go. My Big 12 thing. I've done my research on K-State, and I'll tell you what, buddy, I don't have the freaking idea what's going to happen with K-State this year. They got a new coach. They got a new offensive line. They've got a new defensive line. They've got maybe one of the best quarterbacks that's being a senior this year. They've got a couple good running backs, but most importantly, they have a new coach. So if they let Avery Johnson run free like they haven't in the last couple of years, they might be good. And also they've got a cream cup schedule. They don't play any of the really hard people in the Big 12. All right, now I got to get serious here, Frank. I need to ask you a serious question, buddy. Mm-hmm. This is Soccer Trucking Saturday, Talking Soccer with Ron.
Oh,
so
no.
I did watch the SD game, and I want to tell you, Frank, the first half was kind of boring. It was slow-moving. Mm-hmm. In fact, even the guys on the telecast said it was kind of like watching glue dry at altitude. I think I heard that, or maybe I made it up. I'm old. But anyway, the thing I was impressed with them is SD is very good at those quick passes, quick kicks. They kind of lull your other team to sleep, kind of like that guy in the bar that plays foosball, and all he does is pass it back and forth between his goalie and his front line there till you fall asleep or drink a beer, then he slams it home. I was very impressed with how quick their passes and how good they were. And then when they did make an attack, they were pretty quick. And finally, Frank, I got to tell you, I finally understand offsides. I understand it in the box. Those guys were pulling SD guys over so they can get over, and the guy called it and everything, and so it saved them a goal. I mean, yes, again, they lost in the 90th minute. This seems to be a thing with them. But put a cap on everything, Frank. It all boils down to offside still sucks. We'll see you boys at the park. Have a good weekend.
All right, see you, Ron. We'll see you on November 14th, buddy. How rude. We don't play any of the good Big 12 schools. November 14th. We're going to remember that, Ron. Live in Fort Worth, Texas. Better watch out. Jaden Craig. We got a quarterback that's so smart he's got a degree from Harvard.
That's cool.
My teacher at TCU, his name is Mike Martin. He does the directing, producing, and all that stuff, and he's still an active director and producer in the industry for live sports. He went to K-State. He calls it the Harvard of the Midwest. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't know, education-wise, if that's the Harvard of the Midwest. See you November 14th. You know what? I didn't have any motivation for that game. It's now circled on my calendar. November 14th. We'll see you there. It might be a trap game because we got Big Bad Utah the week after without Kyle Whittingham, November 21st. I can't believe I got to suffer through. Here's the other thing, too. When we get to like college football time, good thing we're off Thanksgiving weekend like we normally are because TCU plays on actual Thanksgiving. Maybe everybody will be distracted by the Cowboys and stuff like that. We play Texas Tech on Thanksgiving. That could either go really awesome or really poorly. Last time we played on Thanksgiving, blew out Texas by like 40-something points.
An interesting Texas Tech story in the sports thread.
No, that we didn't get to today.
I mean, we still could a little later on.
We'll get back to the phone calls. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Ray in Scripps Ranch, which reminds me about something I want to talk about Scripps Ranch in a second. Ray, what's going on?
Hey, well, I'm just thinking about Tony Gwynn these days, just wondering, do any of these guys even know who he was and what he did and the standard that he set for the Padres? And that's just a thought. I saw his first and last game, so obviously a great fan like everybody of Tony's. Is anybody? I've only caught part of your show, but the all this talk about trades and this and that and coming up. What about? Are we going to have baseball next year?
I think they will. I think eventually they're going to come to an agreement. Have you seen the? I don't want to call it propaganda because it's not really. But have you seen the? I would call it mostly political ads. Have you seen the baseball political ads?
Yes.
They're amazing. Every time, because I'm starting to see these political ads from the MLB owners. By the way, is this the first we've ever seen this?
I would think so.
From the MLB side? I don't remember seeing like political ads like you're about to vote in an election with the MLB on the salary cap. We listen to you. Here's the data. They have all the interviews, and it's like, if I was... I'm on the side. I want to see a salary cap in baseball. If I was a player, oh my God, I'd be so ticked off about some of these ads. It's so crazy.
That was in the sports thread a couple weeks ago. They were losing their minds over it.
And I thought it was just like at the All-Star game, and I'm starting to see them more and more now watching the Padres. I give them credit. I think it's creative. I mean, if you don't think that the owners are not locked in on getting a salary cap, these commercials are just top notch. We listen to the fans. They're like, we hear you guys. We know. Look at the disparity between the payrolls. It's great. I love them. I think they're hilarious. Do you not like them? I think they're great.
No, I think they're great.
I think they can win over some casual fans with that. I think eventually they're going to play a season because, there's too much money on the line for both sides to just miss out an entire year. I don't think they're that stubborn. Maybe they are. I honestly think they align more this year than last year or than the last time. I really think so. I really think they actually align more. How many, aside from the salary cap, how many things have the players just checked? Yep, we'll take that. We'll take that. We'll take that. We'll take that. What about these things? Owners, yep, sounds good, sounds good, sounds good. I'm just saying, like, they actually are agreeing on a lot of things. The only thing in the way is the salary cap. So I definitely think that they will play in 2027. Is it a full season? I'm not necessarily 100% sure on that one. I think they're going to be playing games next year, though. I would love to see the counter ads from the players, because Go Aztecs in the YouTube chat mentioned that player ads might have counter ads. I think that'd be hilarious. The political ads in between baseball games, the commercials, it's just going to be so funny. I'm here for it. I'm here for the entertainment. All right, I mentioned Scripps Ranch. If I'm not mistaken, I think I got to go look up SoCal Little League regionals. I think that starts this weekend. Yeah, here it is. We have two teams in San Diego that are competing in this. And, I know there's a lot of leagues. I know there's the 8 to 10-year-olds, the 9 to 11, the intermediate, the juniors, and the seniors. But the one that goes on TV and the one that goes to Williamsport is the division that used to be majors, but now it's just called Little League. We have two teams still alive in that. So, Scripps Ranch and Sweetwater Valley are the two teams that are still alive in Little League. They play tomorrow at 1 o'clock at Woodfield Park in Aliso Viejo, California. It's an 11-team bracket. It's double elimination. And if Scripps Ranch or Sweetwater Valley wins this, they will be representing Southern California in the West Regional. And if they win the West Regional, then they go to the Little League World Series where, they get to compete over Williamsport, and that's all fun and dandy. As a Scripps Ranch Little League All-Star alum, I'm looking forward to seeing how far they get. So they play East Vale out of District 72 Saturday at 1 o'clock, and Sweetwater Valley will be playing on the exact same time on Field 6. Scripps Ranch is playing on Field 4. Sweetwater Valley is going to play Golden Hill on Saturday at 1 o'clock. If they both win, they will both play Sunday at 4 o'clock. If they both lose, they will play 1 o'clock on Sunday. So, and then you would have to win 6 or 7 games in a row, and you start running into pitching. So, the Scripps Ranch Little League All-Stars have made it pretty far, which is great. So, we'll see how that. We'll keep you updated on that over the weekend. See where they're at with the Little League as they try to maybe represent us in the Little League World Series. We've had a lot of success in the Little League World Series. With the South Bay teams have done an exceptional job. So we'll keep you updated on that. When we come back, I know we teased it before. We got to take a break. AJ Preller talking about Ethan Salas. It's not over yet. Still got another hour. Before we lead you into Gwen and Chris, and then the Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt. Padres trying to keep this thing rolling. They're going to have to show a lot more to me for me to think that, like, oh, yeah, they're definitely going to the playoffs. The offense has drastically improved. I don't think it's from an offensive perspective now. You have nobody left to pitch, man. You have nobody to pitch in the starting rotation unless you go like bullpen day every day. And there's not enough pitching out there in the trade deadline to make this team be good enough, I think, to make it through. I really don't believe that. I don't think they should sell everybody off. I don't think they should like massively buy. It's probably a little bit in between. I think they got to use this trade deadline to get ahead of the offseason, not knowing how long of the offseason you're going to have, where you can actually make moves because of maybe an impending lockout. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Tim in La Mesa. He's got an opinion on the Mason Miller situation. What's going on, Tim?
How you doing, guys?
Doing well.
Well, look, I was also thinking a little bit about your I wanted to offer this on the labor thing. I actually think the MLBPA is going to pitch a fit about the draft, getting rid of high school drafts, getting it down to 12 rounds. I think they're going to
I agree with that.
have a thing on that. And here's the thing. Here's my, obviously salary cap, I tend to agree with you, has to be a salary floor. Probably has to be big enough to make the guys in Cincinnati and Colorado uncomfortable, which is going to be weird. But you know what I think the biggest thing, and I wonder if this is a negotiating tactic, guaranteed contracts. Like, this is the only sport where you sign somebody to $300 million, they play for 5 years, you still have to pay them, right? Like, that's a huge deal, and I wonder if that could be a negotiating tactic. I just wanted to throw that out there. As for Miller, if you dump our number one asset in DeVries for 100 days of a closer, that's just dumb. Like, what about the talk about turning him into a starter? Remember in spring training, everyone was talking about converting him to a starter, but it wasn't going to be this year.
Too.
I don't, and I agree with you that it's the national media. Probably Passan's getting texts from all the other GMs, like, make sure we can trade for this guy. Like, I don't think it's ours, but seriously, if they do that, I don't see it. I mean, it would be really short-sighted. Not that Preller's, I mean, his record is what it is. We go to the playoffs, but we don't win. But I just don't see it doing that. So, thoughts on that?
I agree with that, Tim, and I appreciate the phone call. And I also appreciate the ad with the draft. I think the Players Association is going to throw a fit about that, 100%. But that's the other side that we haven't really looked at too much because we're so inclined to emotionally view the now, Frank. I mean, trading Leo DeVries for 100 days, 100 games, if you will, of Mason Miller is organizational malpractice.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It's malpractice. And there's nothing you're going to get back that's anything close to that. I mean, completely malpractice. So I agree with Tim in that particular sense. And if you trade him for two average starting pitchers, I also think you're just doing that because you think you have to, because that's what what everybody has always done. I don't necessarily think that's worked out for a lot of teams. I really don't. He brings up a good point about the labor negotiations with the contracts. I mean, being fully guaranteed. I mean, this is why I've always said, like, the Players Association for baseball is so powerful. I mean, it is so much better to be a baseball player than every other athlete. Your contracts are fully guaranteed. There's unlimited spending. There's not a lot of problems that you have. I mean, fully guaranteed contracts. I mean, you wonder why production, when these guys get to a certain age and they're under contract, goes way down after they get paid. I mean, it's just like kind of natural for everybody. And all these teams want to get young and don't want to sign these big deals. I mean, if they weren't fully 100% guaranteed, maybe you would see a better product of baseball. I just don't see the players ever going for that. Now, what if it's one or the other, Frank? What if instead of a salary cap, they eliminate the guaranteed contracts? What would you rather have as a player, a guaranteed contract or a salary cap? I'd take or no salary cap. I'd take the guaranteed contract.
Oh, 100%.
If I'm a player. Oh,
yeah.
Are you kidding me? They have both right now. I think they need to give up one if you're going to make this thing work. But they don't have to, and they have the leverage to not have to do that. So I think the owners are going for the salary cap. But they're also trying to go, remember, they're trying to cap some of those contracts too on that one proposal, which I don't mind. I think those are all better for the better of baseball in terms of like the overall conversation for the status of baseball. But it definitely makes it a lot better. I mean, it makes it more lucrative for the owners. But I don't care about the labor negotiations in terms of who makes more money. We've already talked about that before. I'm in favor of whatever makes the best for Major League Baseball and my viewing experience. I might be selfish in that particular standpoint, but I don't really care. That's how I view this. All right, we teased it long enough. Let's get to the conversation about the Padres. Again, the latest report that we had yesterday, and we've had a lot of these reports, right? You know, John Heyman today on MLB Network said he doesn't think Mason Miller's going anywhere. I don't think anybody logically thinks that is the case. I think the Padres have done a great job in listening. I think in order to be a good president of baseball or a general manager like AJ is, you have to listen on everything, just in case somebody like shows their hand and overpays for a guy like Mason Miller. But I don't think he's going anywhere because I think I honestly think the Padres are listing an asking price that's so astronomically high, it's basically telling everybody he's not for sale. It's a way to say, oh, we'll listen to phone calls, but this is the price. I mean, that's basically telling you it's not for sale. Because every counter, I don't know why people don't understand that either, Frank. It's like nobody would ever do that. Nobody would ever trade XYZ for Mason Miller. That's kind of the point. That's kind of the point. That means he's not really for sale. Got to think about it. So the Padres still believe that they might be buyers. I'd rather stand pat. If you're going to buy, I think you should buy for 2027 more so than 2026. I mean, obviously, if it helps you in 2026, that's fair. But if they do decide to buy, I mean, obviously, one of the biggest names is Ethan Salas. I don't know why you would give up Ethan Salas for a run at the pennant in 2026. The morning show asked A.J. Preller about this, and here's what A.J. Preller said.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan's had a great year. We've talked about it a few times on this program, and I think we're super excited by what he's doing. I think we've always thought very highly of him, and I think that's also part of like not riding the wave. You know, it's like you see him, you know, maybe publicly it's you know, one year he's, you know, the 97th ranked prospect, and the next year he's 12th. He's the same person. You know, he's 19, 20 years old. He's just been healthy this year and doing the things that, you know, our baseball group feels like he could do. So. Again, I think you know, somebody like Ethan, we see him as being a you know, big part of the Padres' future. You know, and he's, again, I think I'm just happy for him because somebody that the group thinks very highly of. You know, it's exciting to think about him playing at Petco, and really nothing's changed for us in the last year. It's not like, you know, for us, he was somebody that we've always thought highly of, and you know, see him playing at Petco, and I feel like just seeing him perform on the field has kind of confirmed that for us here this year.
We got to start doing it again, tracker, sometimes with A.J. Preller. That is his crutch word. Everybody's got a crutch word when they speak. I say you know a lot. That's kind of like a crutch word. Everybody's got one. Again, might be A.J. Preller's. I don't think they're not in a position to sell him. I honestly don't think they're in a position to sell Mayfield or Schoolcraft. And, you know, there are some players that might have some value for other organizations. I talked about that last year if they want to buy. I think it's going to be very interesting. I honestly, I think they move Morejón and then spin that into adding for this year and next year. They might flip some prospects to get it. This might be an act. When I think about A.J. Preller at this year's deadline, you know what I think of? I think of him having, you know, basically the scene from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where he's got all the, like, drawing the lines and, you know, they use for conspiracy memes. I almost feel like he's like, I'm going to sell all these guys, and I'm going to flip them for these guys, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be buying and selling. I mean, we've seen some pretty crazy trade deadlines with A.J. Preller. We haven't seen a lot of buy and sell crazy deadlines for AJ Preller, this to me could be a wild trade deadline of not a blockbuster move, but AJ Preller just buying and selling all over the place.
Yeah, more or less equating to standing still, standing pat at the deadline.
A lot of different new faces out there, right? I mean, just with the... I also... And we have a little bit of time here. I wonder how much this plays a factor into it because they asked him about it. I know they're holding out hope that Musgrove and Pivetta come back, but the morning show asked AJ Preller about this. Maybe this adds to their hope of why they might be able to still make the playoffs where they're at. I mean, they're only 4 games out, right? But that was 2.5. Not too long. It was 2 games not too long ago. Here's what AJ Preller said about Pivetta and Musgrove pitching this year.
Yeah, they've made, they continue to make progress, and they're getting to the point now where they're going to face hitters and get out into rehab games. So, I know it's it's been a long road for those guys. They've worked really hard, and I think we're excited here this week to kind of see, to see them get back on the mound, start pitching in games, and hopefully be ready to come help us at some point in time in August. So, like we've said on this, I know it kind of feels like it's been running throughout the whole year. In terms of, that rehab process, they can do all the rehab they want, the plyo balls, the training with our athletic training staff. Really like the test is, can you get on the mound, every 5 days and be able to throw, 50 plus to 75 plus to 90 pitches and then bounce back and do it in 5 days. But they're at a point now where, we're seeing them throw at velocity. We're seeing them get on the mound and get to a point where we'll now go see them against the minor league hitters here and hopefully see him back at Petco in August.
So, I mean, will that change kind of what you do in the next 10 days or so before the deadline?
I mean, it's all part of it. Like every day, obviously, we're watching our team. You're kind of seeing where we're at in the standings, and then you're obviously, you're trying to get a sense of, hey, this roster could look a lot different in a couple of weeks in terms of guys that are in the building and in the organization coming back. So we got. Obviously we had Randy Vasquez come back, Wandy come back from bereavement list, and then Estrada's out on rehab assignment, and then obviously Joe and Nick after that, and hopefully Jason after that. So yeah, I think you factor it all in. Can you take any of those guys and say it's a guarantee? No, I think they're you'd feel different if they were up there pitching right now currently in the big leagues. So. But I think for us, you factor it in as hey, this is these guys are now getting on the mound and progressing, and what it looks like if they get back into it. That's all part of the decision making process.
AJ Preller on with the morning show this morning on the Manager's Reports is brought to you by SDCCU. It's not Big Bank Banking, it's better. I think you're just holding out hope for those guys. I mean, at this point, I would love to see Joe Musgrove back just because of what he has done for this organization as being a representative of San Diego, for the no-hitter, for everything that he has gone through. It would be great to see him pitch again in a Padres uniform. I can't really get excited about him helping this team get to the playoffs, or Nick Pivetta for that matter.
This year.
For sure. I mean, it would be nice to see him come back and look close to what he was. Something to build off of for next year, I think would be the ultimate goal. And I don't see Nick Pivetta coming back before August 22nd. I mean, at that point, even if you just added one starting pitcher, which I don't necessarily think they have the means to do. Like, they had Freddie Peralta. Is that enough to get you to August 22nd?
And also, here's
tread water? I don't know if it is.
But here's another issue that I see cropping up is with how bad the starting pitching has been. How likely is it that those guys do stay down for 30 games? Because Musgrove has pitched in 2 years. Pivetta's getting close to. They might be pulled up earlier than they should be, too.
Interesting conversation. 1 o'clock when we come back. 1 o'clock on the Braden Surprenant Show on a Friday. Gonna have a fun Friday. It's Friday. Remember that from a previous show I used to listen to when I was a kid? It's Friday. Should be a fun time. Yesterday I had a great day. I went to the zoo yesterday. Had a great time at the zoo yesterday, Frank.
Very nice.
I don't have member passes to the zoo, but my friends and family do, and so I got like the half off thing from one of their membership deals. Walked around the zoo. It was great. Got to see the aminals.
Aminals.
You know what my favorite animal at the zoo is right now? The burrowing owl. Have you seen the burrowing owls?
I have not.
They're so tiny. They're so small. They're hilarious.
A little guy.
Just walking around. That's right.
Just a little guy.
It was super hot last night or yesterday though. So like the pandas were like, yeah, we ain't doing this. They were inside. They're like, we ain't handling this. I did get to like I guess it's like the Africa Rocks part. There's penguins over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the penguins like walked out, felt the heat out of his little like burrow in the cave. Was like, nope, and walked right back in. So it was a fun time at the zoo yesterday. We had a great time. Went over to afterwards. We went to the Balboa Park area. My family likes going. They went to the Prado for a couple of drinks, and then they were doing like their concerts in the park at Spreckles Orchestra or whatever the Spreckle, that theater they have, that like open air theater. And we saw Three Car Garage play. They're a local band in town.
I'd say that's impressive.
Some older gentlemen, if you will. One of the guys used to play for the San Diego Gulls way back in the day.
They drop a cylinder when they were trying to change notes, or
no? They were good. Three Car Garage. They perform a lot at Tio Leo's and Fast Times here in town. But I guess my mom knows one of the people in the band. I didn't know that. He's a uni alum. He was like their lead singer. But they were really good. They were exceptional. They were you see these bands all the time, these like concerts in the park bands. They're adult, these garage bands, if you will, these adults that play, and they do a bunch of they just play a bunch of hit songs from everybody around the place. It was good. They had good 70s music, 80s music. It was a fun afternoon at Spreckles Open Air Theater, whatever it's called. And then after, we went to the Friendly over in North Park, the Friendly Tavern. And the Friendly Tavern's great. Have you ever been do you like cheeseburgers, Frank?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Friendly?
I have not.
The
no.
Friendly's great. I've been to the Friendly Tavern twice. They're pretty simple. They got a couple of different burgers, and then they have canned beer. And if you shotgun the beer, it's $1 off. Sometimes they'll shotgun with you. So, pretty good pricing too. I got like for a double cheeseburger, like a smash burger because it's a flat top burger. For a double cheeseburger, fries, and a tecate, it was like $16, which is not too bad. But I have to I don't know who is the chef last night. But at the Friendly, like everything's outside. And so you go and you order up at the counter, and they have like a small little bar. They have a couple of cocktails. It's mostly beer. It's canned beer. And it's like basically like an outdoor patio over there on I think, University in North Park. And you go pick up your food at the kitchen, which looks, it's just one building right there. And there's a guy that calls out your order. He was the funniest dude ever. He would come out with... he would just like for everybody's name, he would like have a fun little feel on it. I was trying to remember off the top of my head some things he said, but it was hilarious. And so, my mom's nickname is Dizzle. So he was like, order for Dizzle. Come over here, guys, and get your food that sizzles, it was hilarious, dude. The guy was having a great time. Just go out there cooking burgers. It's a great place over there in North Park, the Friendly. So I had a great day yesterday. Tonight I'm going to the Comedy Store, and I'm going to see. So Josh Nelson's going to open. Our buddy Josh, he's going to open for Jeff Dye tonight. Jeff Dye's here tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. I think. No, maybe just tonight, tomorrow. I can't remember. I think they're here for 3 days. But Jeff Dye is performing twice tonight, twice on Saturday, I think once on Sunday, and I think they're almost all sold out at the Comedy Store. But we're going to the night show tonight, the 9:30. Late night. 9:30 comedy night in La Jolla. So that should be fun. I'm looking forward to that. A couple of buddies are going. My family's going, some of their friends. So it's I'm looking forward to it. I like seeing Jeff Dye. And Josh does a great job opening up for him. So we'll see if he's got any Padre jokes tonight. You know what? Here's the deal. It's like I want to catch up at 9:30 because, Josh Nelson might be a little upset at the 7 o'clock show if the Padres lose to the Marlins. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's numb to it now. You just don't know. I haven't gotten as many text messages complaining about the team as much these last couple of days, and that's where you don't want to be. You don't want to be in the spot where you don't care, because we all still care about this Padres team. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And this is one of the this is where I am running out of weekends now. I'm down to this is kind of my last one before football starts, because football starts a week from today. And I got the JV practice in the morning, I have varsity practice in the afternoon next Friday. So it's going to be early morning practice, work, afternoon practice. We got Saturday of next week. Once football starts, it's no Friday nights, no Saturdays. We're locked in fully on my busiest time of the year. Now, I did get a DM here on Instagram, and I think this confirms what I heard last night, because the chef last night at the Friendly said they call me Slim. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember why they call him Slim, because he was answering it and I was leaving. I didn't hear him. But I got a DM and said, heard the Friendly shout out, best burger in San Diego. I believe you're talking about Chef Slim. Dude is great. Yeah, Chef Slim's money. It was hilarious. It was hilarious listening to him call out the orders. And the best part about the Friendly that I experienced yesterday, the best part, they all were having a good time. It was just everybody was having a good time. That was working there. So I had a great time yesterday. Again, if you check out the Friendly, if you see 3 Car Garage, go see them. I think they're playing at the Tierra Santa Concerts in the Park coming up. They were fantastic. Had a great time with that. So had a really good day yesterday. Trying to continue that day today at the Comedy Store, if you will. You got any plans for this weekend? Truck Series Tuesday night champ? Does Cole Brooks know, as a member of your squad, does he know that after the drop week went through, that the Panda, what's it called? Trash Panda Autosports got the victory?
I think he was in here at the start of the show. I believe.
I don't know. Cole Brooks, congrats, man.
Yeah, there you go. See?
You know what? Maybe holding the gas can with a cigarette in your mouth actually worked out. We don't recommend you ever do that. They won. Him, Trav Gundy. Great job, crew chief. Way to get it done.
Lit a fire,
That's
sure.
Right. Yeah, lit. That's not the fire you want to light. Please don't do that.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't really have any. I'm thinking about going to San Diego FC Dallas tomorrow night, but other than that, I'm not entirely sure as to what's going on this weekend.
I bet the other guy threw his mouse. We do have a lineup. We're going to get to that in a second. I do have to say, too, with the Friendly, with their burgers, no modifications. They they say it in a nice way instead of being aggressive about it. We're not changing our menu. They just go, we respectfully decline any modifications to our burgers. That's fair. You know what? They actually have a burger on the menu that's just meat and cheese for the people that don't want anything on it.
There you go.
Fair enough. Want to get to the phone calls? 833-288-1973, 833-288-1973.
Where can we watch the stream, Frank? It's actually the season just ended. Season ended last night, unfortunately.
You got to fire us up on the stream so we can watch the next season whenever it starts.
Will do.
Trash Panda celebrating at Live Beach. Yeah, it's 54 Beach to you, Fridge. Let's get out to Brad, and I think he's if he hasn't made it to South Carolina by now, he is driving incredibly slow. But let's get to Brad in South Carolina. Brad, what's going on?
Boys, how are you doing? Actually, I'm just leaving Biloxi, Mississippi, because I stayed 3 days with friends and family.
Okay, you know what? Fair enough.
Underside of the country.
Fair enough. How much more driving you got left there, Brad?
I got 3 hours to go, and I'll finish in Columbus, Georgia, because there's a Georgia peach at the other end of it. So life is going to be good.
That's great, man.
I will tell you, have you ever been to Matt's Mexican Food in Austin, Texas? I have never seen a collection of beautiful 20-year-olds in my entire life. I thought San Diego had cute girls. Boys, go to Texas.
Well, I did go to college in Texas, and there's a lot of beautiful people, men and women out there. But it's really difficult. It's really hard to compete with California. We are some of the most beautiful people out here. I will say that. What do you got for us today, Brad?
And then there's me.
Hey, I'm going to say keep the faith with the Padres. Considering we're playing poker with a pair of tens, and I wouldn't give up the hand yet because the river card could be another 10. So we got some broken guys that are coming back. And I think we'll pull it out. I really do. Keep the faith, folks.
I appreciate that, Brad. Thanks again. Foul on Frank for calling himself ugly. Come on.
He draws the foul.
No self-deprecation here, looks. A face only a mother could love. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound
I was going
right.
to say, what's the difference between what I said and what you just said?
Waiting for the comment in the YouTube chat. You guys got faces for radio. I hear that so many times. And I know it's a joke. I don't get offended by it. It's just like, come on, can we think about a different joke next time? Maybe a little bit of a different joke. Be much appreciated. All right, we got a lineup today. As we do every day. I'd have you guess, but you'd probably be one off on everything across the board. It would be hilarious if Fernando didn't bat leadoff today and everything got moved by one, just for you to think Frankie one off. All right, today's lineup for the Padres. Fernando leading off playing right field.
Okay.
Jake Cronenworth bats second, plays second. Manny Machado bats third, DHs. Ty France in the cleanup spot plays first base. Jackson Merrill getting the start today after missing yesterday. He will play center field, bat fifth. Luis Camposano bats sixth. He is catching. Gavin Sheets bats seventh, plays left field. Xander Bogaerts bats eighth and is the shortstop. Sungmoon Song plays third base and bats ninth for Eman Marquez. I don't mind Xander Bogaerts batting eighth right now.
No,
I also don't mind Sheets batting seventh. I mean, these are two of the guys that have been in the biggest slumps right now, and that's why I like Xander too. He was asked about it. He could have been the veteran that get all upset and stuff. He's like, I gotta play better. He does. He's got to hit better. I mean, he's been off. I mean, he got a great start to the year, and that is quickly faded, and they're gonna need that. But this game tonight, Frank, and we'll talk more about it on the other side. Actually, no, I do want to get to what some of the deadline deals have looked like for players like Mason Miller in the past, because Tim Britton wrote an article about it. We're going to get to that when we come back as we preview the series here against Miami. The offense has been fine. They have a top 5 offense in baseball since June. They have one of the best OPSs in baseball since June. It's the pitching. And to me, in order to win any of the games this weekend, if you want to get back on track, I mean, I think it's going to be very difficult to beat a team that has just lost 9 games in a row. It doesn't seem like it would, but law of averages, they're due to get a win here sooner rather than later. And the Padres, unfortunately, are in the mode of like, we better start sweeping teams if we want to get back in this thing. But this is going to come down to the pitching staff, and they got to get somebody to get you. I mean, it used to be asking for 6 innings would be nice. Now it's like, you better make it. Hopefully they can make it through 5. Aside from Griffin Canning, the starting pitch against Atlanta wasn't too bad. But that's an Atlanta team that has had a bottom 5 offense since June. Since really end of May. Since Ronald Acuna Jr. had been playing. So a little bit easier to navigate. This Marlins team has just been struggling right now. They need Eman Marquez to go deep into the game today. I don't know if he can or not, but the offense is doing their part now. It took them a little bit too late to get there, but now they're doing it. It's time for the pitching staff to step it up again. And the they're only is as good as what they are, right? I understand that with what you have rolling out there, but you got to get better performances out of your starting pitching if you want to try to, do what the Padres have claimed they still want to do, and that's buy at the deadline.
Yeah, and you're seeing there are a lot of starting pitchers on this roster right now. You got the 5 in the rotation, plus you got Matt Waldron, plus you've got Randy Vasquez, and really only Jackson Wolf behind them that hasn't come up yet and has pitched in the major leagues before. So I don't know how much more of a chance you can give some of these guys, because some of these guys have been in the rotation, haven't worked out, went to the IL for injury, and then have now come back and have come into a bullpen roles to try to get them some work. So I'm not sure how much longer you can really keep going with this starting rotation the way it is right now. You really need to see some guys starting to step up and cement themselves either in the rotation or back into the rotation in the case of a guy like Randy Vasquez.
I mean, I can't. They've used a lot of openers. I'm surprised they haven't just gone to bullpen days. Except I mean, I guess they just don't have enough bullpen arms. That everybody's arm is falling off.
At this point, you can start piggybacking guys too. Like,
I'm surprised they haven't done that yet.
Yeah, like you can have Canning go one time through the order, and then have Vasquez come in and pick it up again. Maybe go 2 times through the order, 1 time, depending on that. And that's not throwing a bullpen arm. That's throwing. You have 7 starting pitchers on this roster right now. That's a lot of guys. That is a lot of guys that you could be using in multiple different ways to help pick some guys up. And plus, you got Lucas Giolito, who should be coming back sometime soon too.
Yay! There's how many? This is an entire team of we talked about the shortstops that this team has had for so many years. They got so many starting pitchers that they just keep moving to the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, somebody's got to learn how to be a starting pitcher here. I mean, they got to try to find somebody that could get you innings and get you outs. Chris brought this up a couple of weeks, almost a month ago, about Griffin Canning, and it was like I said, you need guys that are going to eat innings. You don't have anybody that does. Yeah, that's why you keep a guy like Canning. He's like, eat innings. He's not even doing that.
Only 2 2/3 yesterday.
Right. I mean, they don't even have guys that eat innings right now.
We talked about at the beginning of the season the offense putting the bullpen in a bad spot and how it's weighing on the bullpen and the starting pitching. Now the starting pitching is putting the bullpen in a bad spot.
Now it actually is the starting pitching by far. Before it was the offense was putting all of the pitching into a bad spot, and now that they have been crippled because of it, the offense is starting to turn things around, and the pitching's like, all right, well, we got nothing left. It all goes back to again, and we mentioned this early in the show, if the Padres, and this is an if, and it's a big if, and I don't like playing what-if games, this is a different conversation right now if the Padres got this level of performance a month earlier than they did. It took them way too long to get to this point. I mean, based on the last week of games, which have all been too little too late, that might be the defining factor of the defining phrase of this season, too little too late. I think it starts with spring training. And this is what happens every once in a while. What was the last WBC year? Was that 2021 or 2023? Do you remember?
I don't. Not off the top of my head. Hold on.
I just I don't want to use that as an excuse.
23.
It was 23.
It was supposed to be in 2021, but that happened.
I mean, they're almost following to a T the same year that they had the last time there was a WBC. At least by now, the next time they have a WBC, at least most of the players that have been playing it might be too old to play in it anyway.
Do the players get paid during a lockout? No.
No, they do not.
Nobody gets paid during a lockout.
When we come back, a lot of people have said trade for a haul for Mason Miller. There's been some comparisons of previous trades. We'll talk about that when we come back. This will be our final World Cup date, if you will, in between before we turn this back into San Diego FC coverage. They will be back in action coming up this week. Spain, world champions once again, 106-minute goal from Ferran Torres. He lifted Spain to a 1-0 extra time victory over Argentina, giving them their second World Cup title and completing an incredible tournament. Spain allowed just one goal the entire World Cup, dominated possession in the final, and completely shut down Messi in what could be the last World Cup match of his legendary career. Rodri controlled the midfield all night and was deservedly named player of the tournament, but the ending wasn't all celebration. Argentina's Enzo Fernandez was sent off late. Tensions boiled over the final whistle, and several players were involved in a post-match confrontation and confrontations as emotions spilled onto the field. In the end, though, one thing was undeniable. Spain played the best football of the tournament, and they are deserved world champions. Frank, how did Spain reclaim the World Cup title?
It was an incredible match. They didn't rely on one superstar to carry them through the tournament. Instead, they trusted what has defined Spain for years, and that is possession, patience, and control. They conceded one goal throughout the entire tournament, dominated possession through the final, and completely neutralized Lionel Messi and Argentina's attack. The winning goals summed up everything Spain had built through the tournament. Pedro Porro delivered a perfect cross. Nico Williams headed it back across goal. Ferran Torres finished clinically, a true team goal from a true championship team. Argentina was nowhere to be found in that game yesterday.
And if this was Messi's final World Cup appearance, it was a difficult way for one of the greatest careers in sports history to end. Spain simply refused to let him influence the game. I mean, he barely touched the ball.
Bless you. In
the opening stages, and was constantly surrounded whenever he found space, and never found a rhythm that defined the rest of his remarkable tournament. It's not an indictment of Messi. That's just kind of a credit to Spain of just how good they had been. And it wasn't just Messi. I mean, they shut everybody down throughout this tournament.
Yeah, Rodri and Spain completely controlled possession, cutting off Argentina's supply lines and forcing Messi into one of the quietest World Cup matchups of his career. And that's saying something, especially with how his World Cup started. Even in defeat, though, Messi's legacy remains untouchable, a World Cup champion, multiple Copa America's championships, and one of the greatest playing careers the sport has ever seen. So this would probably be a lot more of a sting for Lionel Messi individually had Argentina not won in Qatar in 2022. But still, this was a bad game, not just from Lionel Messi, but from Argentina, who picked the worst time in this tournament to play their worst match of the tournament.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the final will also be remembered for Argentina just completely acting like, I don't know, children, I guess. I mean, they've completely lost their composure at the end. I mean, midfielder Enzo Fernandez received a second yellow card late in regulation after a reckless challenge on Spain. Leaving Argentina to play with all of extra time with 10 men. Spain took full advantage of that. After Torres scored the winner, emotions boiled over. Players from both sides exchanged words. Pushing and shoving broke out after the final whistle, and several Argentina players were involved in confrontations instead of joining the traditional post-match sportsmanship. To make matters worse, many Argentina players turned away during Spain's trophy celebration rather than acknowledging the new champions. Very disappointing conclusion for a team that had represented its country so passionately throughout the tournament. I thought that was embarrassing for soccer. I think it's embarrassing for them. And, it's if that's what we're going for in the future, that's embarrassing for all of sports if we're going to make this the sportsmanship of the losing team.
Yeah, that was a sore loser moment on a world stage for Argentina. And I mean, it's frustration because of the match and how the match was played out. And it wasn't even really anything bad. It was just Spain just completely snuffed them out. Anything that Argentina tried to do, Spain had multiple answers for it. And Argentina did get close. They almost scored a miracle goal right at the very end to be able to push it to penalties. But even still, I mean, that's just frustration, not of the way the match was officiated, which I thought was fine, not of, just of anything that Argentina necessarily did wrong. It's just frustration that the other team, Spain, had their number, and they had an answer to everything that Argentina tried to throw out at them, to the point where, Argentina to the point where they started.
The World Cup is over. I didn't have time to talk about that.
Yeah, that was one of the things in the sports thread. So the sports thread we'll just go through the topics quickly. LeBron signing with the Philadelphia 76ers. Good for him.
LeBron James. Dude, I had a buddy be like, that's your A block today. That's such huge news. I'm like, not here. It's not. Does anybody really care LeBron signed with the Sixers in San Diego?
No.
Except for Lakers fans that are just like, thank the Lord he's not coming back.
This was the Texas Tech related story. They had nothing to do with it. They're just the beneficiary.
Bang, bang, Red Raiders, bang, bang.
Duke versus Michigan, college basketball.
Oh, I saw that.
Canceled their December 21st showdown due to unresolved broadcast rights issues. Duke has a partnership with Amazon Prime, which remains intact for its other marquee games. The cancellation highlights just how media rights and television contracts are becoming just as influential as on-court competition. That's absurd. Tarek Skubal said he wants to stay with the Tigers. Patrick Kane, feel-good story for him, goes back to the Chicago Blackhawks on a 2-year, $16 million deal for years 21 and 22 in the NHL.
Cool.
And the Baltimore Ravens signed the Mighty Might. Well, who signed the Mighty Might after the draft.
They definitely did not sign him.
And then before training camp even hits, release Diego Pavia.
He didn't even make it to camp, dude.
Didn't even make it to training camp.
Anybody got to pick him up? I mean, he didn't. I mean, you can keep some of these guys, right? Like camp, you usually have 100 players out there. They didn't even want him to be part of the 100 players. Think about that for a second. I'm sure he's gonna like blame everybody else, and everybody's out to get me kind of deal. You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see the Browns sign him. No offense to Clay. I mean, that could be the most chaotic quarterback room ever. Diego Pavia on the Browns. Let's put it this way, because I do want to get to a couple things before we get to Drake. Like, you look at the roster for the Ravens. Again, it's going to be longer than a CVS receipt right now because they're going into training camp. They have 4 quarterbacks in camp that they all kept over him. Joe Fagano, Tyler Huntley, Lamar Jackson, Skylar Thompson. They're like, you know what? We don't need a 5th guy.
Pokic, P-O-C-I-C. He's the guy. He's the veteran that they kept over him.
Oh, like one of the practice squad or something? Mm-hmm. Oh, he's not on the roster though in terms of quarterbacks. Unless he's listed.
No, I don't think he's. I don't know if he's a quarterback, but that's the guy who
decided to keep instead.
Yeah, that's who they kept instead of.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? We don't need this guy.
You summoned him. He's on the phone lines right now.
Oh no! Definitely doesn't want to have him on the team. Let's get out to Clay in the South Bay. Clay, what's going on?
Hey, gentlemen. Hey, I always listening, call in when I want to. Hey, but whatever with the Browns, we'll talk football, and football season rolls around and baseball season is winding down. But as far as the Padres go, I still haven't given up hope. I think that as long as the starting pitching needs to find its footing again, obviously the relief pitching needs to they need to tighten it down, get more back to a lockdown type of pitching. The offense, they finally awakened. Hopefully all of them can work in unison to try to take us down this last stretch, hopefully, and get us to at least to the playoffs. We'll have to wait and see, obviously, on Musgrove and Pavetta. But obviously, I haven't given up hope. I'm not throwing in the towel. Season ain't over. And the trade deadline doesn't mean end of season.
I appreciate the phone call, Clay. He's on it. Keeping the positivity going. I like that. All right, I do want to get to one more clip from AJ Preller on our manager's report, which is brought to you by SDCCU. It's not Big Bang Banking, it's better. He was on with the morning show today. And it's about the impact a potential lockout makes on his decision-making. Here's what AJ Preller had to say about the decision-making coming up and what you do with the impending lockout.
It's again, it's one of those factors. I think like how big a factor. I think you kind of weigh it out a little bit differently. But yeah, it's a factor that you've got to be aware of. You're always kind of looking at, hey, what's the here and now, and then what's the 3 and 5 year plan, and what's out there on the horizon in terms of in terms of the economic system, what changes, kind of the reserve system, how that all works. The issue, though, with that on this one is sometimes you can go, okay, we know this is going to be out there. Here, the conversations are going to be out there, and there's going to be a new system. There's going to be some system in place. You just don't know what exactly that's going to look like. So we're, of course, like internally, we're talking about it and like, hey, how could things change, and being prepared for how things could change. But we're not going to really know what that is, and we're definitely not going to know it by August 3rd. So it's part of our process. It's part of our thought process when we sit down and talk about our players and decision making and where that's at. But it's again, like it's still hard to kind of predict that one. Like, hey, how are things going to exactly change? Because obviously nobody knows how that's going to work here over the course of the next 6-8 months and getting a new CBA.
I agree with that too. You can't really make your decisions off of something that hasn't happened yet, right? And that's kind of like where we were at when they had that report about Mason Miller could be losing a year of control with the new CBA rules of this, that, and the other. I'm like, until it's agreed upon, you can't be making decisions based on that. I do want to get to, and maybe we'll talk more about this next week as we get closer to the trade deadline, but Tim Britton for The Athletic wrote a article about using history to predict returns on players who may be traded. And he talks about C.J. Abrams. He talks about Tarek Skubal, Joe Ryan. He talks about Kevin Gossman, Francisco Lindor, Reed Detmers, Luis Arraez, Freddie Peralta, Luke Weaver, a lot of the big names that could be traded at the trade deadline. And he compares them to a player that of their caliber that was having the same kind of season that they are currently having, based on Fangraphs WAR, based on, contract status, everything like that. And he makes the comparison about like what you could potentially get. An ongoing theme is a lot of prospects that never end up turning into something that you would necessarily want. The Mason Miller trade proposal that we have seen here, or that is the comparison. We talked about like the Edwin Diaz situation with Jared Kelenic, who was supposed to be a can't-miss player and everything like that. He makes the comparison to Andrew Miller. Andrew Miller in 2016 was 6-1, 9 saves, 1.39 ERA, 45 at a third innings pitch, 2.1 Fangraphs WAR, and a 6.1 Fangraphs WAR prior 2+ seasons. Miller this year is 2-1 with 25 saves, a 0.86 ERA, and 41 2/3 innings, 2.6 F-WAR, and a 6.9 F-WAR since 2024. It's just as close as it could potentially be. He even lays out like Andrew Miller's the closest thing we could potentially find here. Mason Miller's been kind of crazy. In 2016, Andrew Miller was sent from the Yankees to Cleveland in exchange for Clint Frazier, Justice Sheffield, J.P. Feyereisen, and Ben Heller. Frazier was a top 50 prospect. Can't miss guy. Sheffield was a top 100 prospect. Remember what A.J. Preller says? Like, well, or what the report was, they need at least 2 top 100 prospects. Clint Frazier and Justice Sheffield were both those type of players. Feyereisen and Heller near-ready relief prospects, right? You need some more players that can help you out right now. That's what they got back. I just, like, at the time, it sounds like a good deal, but I don't necessarily know if I want players like that. And I guess you could say, well, that was just kind of a fluke. I think that's a more recurring theme, Frank, than the fluke that is what you lost one time in the C.J. Abrams-James Wood trade for a generational talent that got you to the playoffs and ultimately got you to the NLCS. Probably would have got you to a World Series if Fernando Tatis Jr. didn't get in trouble.
Yeah, I really don't think that trading Mason Miller, and the more and more we say it, the more and more we look at it, the more and more it seems ridiculous, is trading Mason Miller for anyone who's not an established major league big name talent that's going to come in here and completely change the direction of where this team is going right now. It makes absolutely no sense to do it.
Well, I think we're going to continue the conversation. And I'm looking through social media, and again, it's all of the national media going like, the Yankees really want this guy. Not it's going to happen. It's just the Yankees really want Mason Miller. The only team I don't want to trade with is the New York Yankees. They got nothing that is worth trading Mason Miller for. We've done the extensive research that we can. I mean, there's no guarantee with some of the players that you get. You're hoping one of them hits. There's nothing the Yankees have that is worth trading Mason Miller for. We should be done with this conversation. But I'm sure it'll continue over the next week or so. Cannot wait for August 3rd. When we come back, San Diego FC recap from Wednesday and a preview for Saturday. Our soccer expert, Drake Hills, joins us to finish up the week. Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show, setting us over on Sports Station 97.3. The Fan. Wrapping up the work week, for us at least. Quinn and Chris will be on next for a short amount of time, and then it's the Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt. 3:10. Padres baseball. 4:10. Hopefully the Padres can snap this rough road trip losing streak. Maybe they could sweep the Marlins this weekend. What are they? 2-5? What are they on this road trip right now? 2-5? They're gonna sweep the Marlins just so they're back to 500 on Sunday. On Monday. And we're gonna go back to the whole here we go. Maybe that's a bold prediction for the weekend. How about San Diego FC? Well, second half of the season didn't get started that great. Kind of looked a lot like the first half of the season. And joining us each and every Friday on the SDCCU fan hotline, it's not big banking, it's better, is our soccer insider, Drake Hills, joining us right now on a Friday. Drake, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Braden? And I guess happy Comic-Con to you and all who celebrate.
That's right. It is Comic-Con going on this weekend. And I'm sure, you got any Oregon Duck comics, Northwestern comics you're dabbling in? Any soccer comics?
Nah, none of that. I'm just kind of sitting in the DC Studios realm. I'm actually downtown just trying to get a new view of just kind of get a new perspective, sitting at my desk. Who knows what's going on in the second half of this MLS season. So thinking on just getting the writing flow going, right, in a new perspective. Sometimes as a writer, you need a new space to work through, and just happened to walk by the DC Studios, which is actually not far from Petco. And the place is packed, man. A line around the block. But, once a Batman fan, always a Batman fan.
Let's talk about San Diego FC and their first game of the the second half of the season was on Wednesday. Obviously, you didn't get back to some winning ways. It's a very interesting second half coming up for this club that, has a tough schedule coming up. They have, played 80 minutes of good soccer for most of the season and then have had 10 minutes where it hasn't worked out. What was your biggest takeaway in game one of the second half after the World Cup?
Well, ultimately, I think, Braden, it's just about focus. There's never been, in the very short recent history of San Diego FC, there's never been a talent problem. From one month to another, you can maybe talk about having a out-and-out center forward, especially in Marcus Invartson's absence, dating back to the middle of last year onward when he was out, that you were looking for that out-and-out nine to help out Anders Dreyer and Chucky Lozano, and then obviously going into this year, still having Dreyer, but then Marcus Ingvartson comes back. But you were really carried by a very stout and talented midfield. So talent isn't the problem. The problem is focus. And if you think about the statistics, you go from being a 12th, 13th, or 14th place team in the Western Conference, which you are now, sitting at 17, 18 points. If you don't concede in the last 10 minutes of a game and drop 11 points in those, I think, 8 occasions in which they conceded in 80th minute or further, you're in the top 5, and you're talking about hosting a playoff game in round 1, as opposed to maybe the ceiling might be simply just making the playoffs this year after being, apart from Inter Miami, the best team in MLS last year. So I just think it's about focus, especially when you're on the road. It's the first game in a couple of months. Obviously, there wasn't an expectation for being as sharp and as clinical because it is the first game back. It's almost like a second season in the middle of one. So it's more so about focus. And I just think that defensively, they kind of lost that. And that's how Loic Williams was able to get that goal for Colorado a couple of days ago and get the win.
Let's just talk about the first half of the season that they had and kind of recap of, as we get into the second half to refresh everybody about San Diego FC, especially after the long break for the World Cup. I think a question has risen a little bit with this team this season about the lack of depth, and maybe the roster isn't deep enough for San Diego FC because, starters were injured. Players receive red cards. Schedule was tough at the beginning of the season. It's going to get tougher here in the second half. And the replacements were just not good enough. And that's what separated this year's team, I think, maybe from last year's team. And with the way the schedule is and playing all these different games, I mean, your depth really matters. They don't have that academy producing players quite yet, like we talked about last time you were on the show. But would you consider another problem is the fact that the roster isn't deep enough?
I don't see it as a long-term issue. I think that this can be, pretty narrow-minded, and I can say this because I covered Nashville FC as a beat writer for their first 4 years of their existence. And then if you want to count even their pre-existence, I covered them in their USL era. And so I saw not only what it was like playing in a league like USL, I saw the transition of what it's like being an expansion team and having, maybe 12, 13 players deep of first-team quality starting level players and everyone else kind of coming in, on the fringe, might make another MLS team, but more likely being a USL quality player. That is not San Diego FC's problem. I don't think that long-term over the course of the first few years of their existence, that depth is the issue. I think if you want to talk about youth, it's more so about the lack of experience from that youth because they don't have any homegrown players yet, because they don't have any younger guys that have brought in perhaps maybe some European experience at the reserve level, or maybe some of the mid-tier leagues like a Portugal or a Belgium or a Netherlands, right? I mean, apart from Anders Dreyer, who played in Belgium, you don't really have that type of pedigree. So I'm thinking more so about the long term and not getting caught up in the short-term narrative of a 3 to 6 month process. But going back to the injuries, I mean, just, thinking about the first one that comes to mind is Jeffrey Severskov. I mean, all-star a year ago, one of the best midfielders in controlling the pace of the game along with Anibal Godoy in the middle of the park. I mean, I'm thinking of, obviously, Cesar dos Santos with the facial fractures. You have in Christian McVeigh with the red cards. I mean, there's so much in terms of what's been taken away from you, whether it's controllables like red cards or uncontrollables like injuries. I think that depth has just been an effect, but it's not the cause of the problem.
We only have a little bit of time here coming up left in the show, and I do want to get to what to expect for our, FC Dallas coming up on Saturday. But I do want to get your opinion on this. This is a very important transfer window for San Diego FC. Tyler Heap's already added a defender and a versatile attacker. They're looking for a difference maker up front, and then everything. They're also looking for. They got to solidify this situation with Chucky Lozano because of the fact that he controls one of their designated player spots, and that's something that they could really use right now, and it's putting them at a disadvantage. How do you see the transfer window playing out for San Diego FC, and can they solve this Chucky Lozano situation that leads to a designated player spot?
Yeah, I mean, DP spots obviously are, they're quality, especially in the way that the league is structured. Yeah, I think one of those things is, I think if we're looking at positionally, that front line is definitely helpful. I mean, I guess with over $9 million in guaranteed salary for Chucky Lozano, I mean, what do you want to do? Eat the salary and kind of give a buyout contract? I mean, I think that's a pretty tough move. So. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what that looks like, but that's going to be, I think, the ultimate priority. And what I mean by that is if you juxtapose that with bringing someone in, I would actually rather, if I were a fan, to see some sort of announcement, some sort of clarification in this window of like, hey, we are going to move on financially, get him off the books for 2026, and that be considered almost like a transfer in and of itself, rather than bringing in a number 9 to kind of supplement the current attack. Because what that does, and what everyone needs to think about, is how MLS is moving into a more globally even schedule, where they're going to kind of play that shortened season at the beginning of next year, and then you start kind of what you would class as a fall to spring starting in July 2027. And I think that is when you can really splash some cash and be able to onboard someone that can make an immediate fit into your team.
Only about a minute or so left. What do you expect San Diego FC to do against FC Dallas? What's the biggest challenge FC Dallas brings tomorrow?
Well, ultimately, they can't let happen what happened in March, right? That huge comeback in which FC Dallas was able to come back 3-3. That's something that I think that, they just can't have, 2-2. That can't happen again. I mean, that's kind of one of those crazy games, one of those 8 games in which, they have a goal that drops points. One of the, or I guess points out of the 11. That's the difference between FC Dallas being in 5th and San Diego FC being about, 13th or 14th in the conference. So it's interesting. FC Dallas just made a splash of cash. They brought in a goalkeeper. That should be pretty exciting for them, and being able to play with 11 as opposed to 10. Kind of in like your Pep Guardiola, Manchester City type of style. So it should be interesting, but I think San Diego FC need to take care of home advantage and being able to get a point here. I think they desperately need it, especially with the MLS All-Star game coming in next week.
Drake, we appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the weekend. Have a fun one out there. We look forward to talking to you next week. Hopefully a little bit more positive with San Diego FC after the start to the second half that they have had.
Absolutely. Stay cool, guys. It's hot out here.
Drake Hill is joining us on the SDCCU Fan Hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. We're signing off for the week. We'll talk to you guys on Monday, hopefully after a Padres series win against Miami. Gwen and Chris coming up next. And Padres baseball, the Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 3:10 later on.